Chapter 868. Half a month later. On the day of the Taishan Shengzong's outer disciple assessment. Creak. Su Xiaoma pushed open the door and strode out in his brand new outer disciple uniform. Patriarch. As he adjusted his wrist, he looked up at the rising sun and said to himself, "This disciple is going to have fun." Little Mo. In the sect of all times, Jun Changshao, who had just finished his morning exercises with his disciples, stood alone in front of the main hall, and said with his hands behind his back, "Today's Taishan Shengzong's outer disciple assessment is destined to be the stage for you to show your true self." Although the sun had just risen, the fairy-like clouds in the outer courtyard of Taishan Shengzong had yet to completely dissipate. It looked quite otherworldly. The sect of all times could not compare to a sect with such a long history. One after another, some disciples appeared outside the training field and lined up in an orderly manner. These people were just spectators. The real protagonists were the hundreds of outer disciples standing in the eastern area. They were dressed in martial attire and looked valiant. As a top sect in the Starfall continent, the disciples they recruited were very powerful. Just by standing there, one could tell that they were not ordinary people. However, some of the disciples who were about to participate in the assessment had burning gazes, while others were nervous. The outer disciple assessment was held every year, at a fixed time as promised. Although it was not as valuable as the sect tournament, it was still an important competition to evaluate the disciples. If they could get good results in the assessment, they would be rewarded with varying amounts of merit points. They might even be valued by the higher-ups. No wonder their emotions were so complicated. Su Xiaoma stood in the crowd. He looked nervous, but his heart was calm. Before he joined the sect of all times, he would have panicked if he participated in the assessment. However, not only did he have the cultivation of a martial king, but he had also gone through all kinds of life and death experiences with the patriarch and his fellow disciples. He had long cultivated a strong heart. "Kid," He Zonging, who was separated by a few disciples, said calmly, "You actually dared to come." "I signed up for the assessment. Of course I have to come." Su Xiaoma smiled innocently. This expression, this smile, made He Zonging's gaze gradually turn cold. When the other contestants saw this, they immediately realized that senior brother He was angry. If they met during the assessment, junior brother Su would be in for a miserable time. "Junior brother," Xia Shuiyan said coldly from afar. "Don't disappoint me." This woman, Su Xiaoma, was on the verge of breaking down. "She's making enemies for me again." True enough. The coldness in He Zonghua's eyes intensified. The participating disciples and spectators all thought to themselves, Elder Xia's granddaughter took the initiative to talk to that guy under such circumstances. Who would believe that there's nothing between the two of them? Cough cough. Right at this moment, the third elder that was in charge of the outer court exam this time walked out from the sect hall. And then he announced with his hands behind his back, "The outer court exam will begin now. Participants, please draw a number to choose your opponent." Because it was held many times every year, the opening ceremony was very simple. Shwa. Shwa. Hundreds of contestants stepped onto the martial arts field that had been temporarily raised to look like an arena. Then they reached into a specific box to select their own tokens. Su Xiaoma also went up on stage, just as he was about to draw his lot. "Elder," He Zonghua said, "Junior brother Su and I have a dual appointment. Can we fight without drawing a number?" "Yes." The third elder allowed it. The Taishan Shengzong did not allow disciples to fight in private. They only allowed duels to resolve conflicts. Someone whispered, "Senior brother He is worried that junior brother Su will be eliminated by other opponents and won't be able to meet him in the exam." Junior brother Su is going to be eliminated in one round. Many disciples looked at Su Xiaoma sympathetically. In their hearts, He Zonghua was the most popular candidate to win the outer court exam this time. "Since you have a dual appointment, then go up on stage first," the third elder said. He knew exactly what Su Xiaoma had been busy with recently, so he was very curious. Could this kid bring him an unexpected surprise? "Shwa." He Zonghua gracefully landed on the martial arts field and said, "Junior brother Su, please go up on stage." Under everyone's gaze, Su Xiaoma walked up in a very clumsy manner. Then he humbly cupped his hands and said, "Senior brother He, please advise me." Everyone's mouth twitched. This was not a duel. This was a dual appointment. Moreover, senior brother Su was fighting for love. He would probably be very serious when he fought. I bet that junior brother Su can last 10 rounds at most. 10 rounds is too many. With senior brother Su's cultivation, he can take him down in 3 to 5 rounds at most. The spectating outer disciples were all discussing and belittling Su Xiaomo. Only Sun Yingquan, who was standing in the crowd, shouted at the top of his lungs, "Junior brother Su, do your best." Junior brother Su has just joined the sect, and he's already calling elder son's son brother. He's quite capable. Isn't he just trying to curry favor from both sides? What real ability can he have? There were still some disciples who despised Su Xiaoma's smooth talking and flattery. Some of them really could not stand it. They thought that one had to rely on true ability to survive in the Taishan Xingzong. Some were just envious that they did not have any flattery skills, so their mentality turned into jealousy. "You may begin," the third elder said. Swoosh. He Zongying stepped out first. His peak Wuzong cultivation was fully unleashed. He then threw a heavy punch, and the space around him started to shake. "Triple space crossing fist," a disciple exclaimed. This was an upper-grade fist technique of the Taishan Xingzong. Its specialty was that it could shake space when used. Not bad. An elder praised. "You've already comprehended it to the realm of great success." Swoosh. At that moment, Su Xiaomo twisted his body backward. Although his movement was not very nice, he easily dodged He Zongying's attack. Then, his feet stepped on the ground frequently, forming a strange posture. 9 winding shadow steps. The third elder and the other higher-ups were stunned. They knew that Su Xiaoma had exchanged for this movement technique. They should not have been surprised when he used it, but they did not expect him to use it so smoothly. It felt like he had mastered it to the extreme. Swoosh, swoosh. When the 9 winding shadow steps was used, the 9 points spun rapidly, creating afterimages. The disciples watching the battle were all stunned. Even the cold and arrogant Xia Shuiyan was in disbelief. He can actually master an upper-grade movement technique to such an extent in such a short time. His talent and comprehension are definitely not ordinary. The third elder and the others also realized this problem. They could not help but mutter in their hearts. Could it be that this kid's spirit root is not middle grade? When Taishan Xingzong recruited disciples, it was the same as the sect of all times. They would not actively test the applicant's spirit roots. Instead, they would choose based on various tests. Spirit roots only determined the upper limit and speed of cultivation. Those with weaker spirit roots might be able to achieve something if they had perseverance and hard work. After all, there were only a few geniuses with high talent. If a sect wanted to develop in a balanced manner for a long time, they would naturally choose more average youths to nurture. Otherwise, it would be unrealistic to have all the disciples with upper-grade spirit roots. This perhaps the sect of all times could do something that was unrealistic. Chapter 869. It was impossible for the sects of the Falling Star continent to have all their disciples with superior grade spiritual roots. However, the sect of all times might be able to do it. As long as Jun Gosheng did not use his contribution points to exchange for other items, and used them to exchange for superior grade aptitude modification elixirs, it was not impossible for everyone to have superior grade spiritual roots in the long run. Su Xiaoma, who came to Taishan Xingzong as a spy, claimed that he had a middle-grade spiritual root. Therefore, when he performed the 9 winding shadow steps so smoothly, the higher-ups immediately believed that without a strong enough spiritual root, it would be impossible to comprehend it to such a level in such a short time. How is this possible? He Zongying was also shocked. He had learned the 9 winding shadow steps before. After studying it for a few months, he felt that it was not as cost-effective as other movement techniques. So he chose to give it up. Now not only did the guy who had just learned it, but he had also reached the level of flowing shadow steps. He had definitely comprehended it to the extreme. Whoosh, whoosh. At that moment, he heard the sound of an explosion. A palm print that seemed to carry flames came from the side. It was so fast and powerful that it made He Zongying's heart skip a beat. This is bad. Boom! Thump! 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 He Zongying was hit and staggered back. After he steadied himself, he looked at the faint flames gathering on Su Xiaoma's right fist and said in disbelief, "Sixth style blazing palm." Whoosh! Su Xiaoma did not say anything. He performed the 9 winding shadow steps again, and performed the 6th style blazing palm when there was an opening. Instantly, waves of heat appeared on the training field. The spectating disciples and contestants were dumbfounded. Su Xiaoma and He Zongying had agreed to a duel a month ago. Other than a few disciples, most people believed that the latter would easily defeat the former. After all, they were not on the same level. However, now that the two of them were fighting, Go Sheng, who was not favored, performed the 6th style blazing palm and 9 winding shadow steps. Naturally, everyone present found it hard to believe, including Sun Yingquan, Xia Shuiyan, and the higher-ups of Taishan Xingzong. Whoosh! Whoosh! Boom! Boom! On the training field, Su Xiaoma used his body movement to move around, and at the right time, he would find a flaw and attack with the 6th style of Raging Flame Palm. This kind of fighting style was both elegant and unpredictable, but also firm and powerful. It was very pleasing to the eye, however, but it was also hard to find any trace of him. Unable to keep up with his opponent's rhythm in a short period of time, he could only fall into a passive position step by step. Step by step, he was forced to stagger back from the stage. Third elder. One of the elders said in surprise, "This Su Go Sheng's cultivation is at the level of Wuzong." With just 2 types of martial arts that had reached the pinnacle, it would be very difficult for Su Xiaoma to defeat He Zongying, who had already reached the pinnacle of Wuzong. Therefore, it was necessary to release his realm to Wuzong's level. A month ago, he had just broken through to martial master. A month later, he has the cultivation of Wuzong. Is he hiding his cultivation on purpose, or did he cultivate? An elder questioned. From a normal point of view, the higher-ups were more willing to believe that Su Xiaoma had been hiding his cultivation all this time. It should be both, third elder guessed. Elder Sun said, "My son gave all 100 natural spirit stones that he had stored for many years to this kid. He has been cultivating very hard recently, so it's not surprising that he has the cultivation of Wuzong." Shuiyan also gave him 50 natural spirit stones, Elder Xia said. Hearing the two of them say that, the elders who still had doubts were immediately relieved. One of them said, "No wonder this kid could break through to Wuzong in such a short period of time. He was given so many resources." Su Xiaoma's efforts did not go to waste. Although his sudden increase in strength shocked everyone, with the foreshadowing and the natural spirit stones given by Sun Yingquan and Xia Shuiyan, the higher-ups did not feel that it was too sudden. Of course, he also knew that no matter the result of this battle, he would be tested for his spiritual root aptitude. Therefore, as he attacked He Zongying, he thought to himself, "What level should I release?" He definitely could not reveal his saint-level aptitude, because it would cause a huge uproar. He might even be interrogated and investigated multiple times by the sect. Although he had done his background research, there was still a chance that his identity would be exposed if he was careless. High level is too common. Su Xiaoma thought for a while and made a decision. Let's use the supreme grade spiritual root. A supreme grade spiritual root was already very good in second or third rate sects, but it was only average in the first rate sections. Boom! Su Xiaoma seized the opportunity and used the 6th style of blazing palm on He Zongying's back. The spectating disciples' mouths twitched. Many people thought that senior he could finish off Go Sheng in 10 moves, but the two had exchanged almost 30 moves. Not only did the former fail, but he was also being suppressed. Damn it! He Zongying, who had stabilized his body, had a cold look in his eyes. He could not accept that a disciple who had just joined the sect had beaten him so badly. Huff! Huff! He clenched his fists, and powerful spirit energy burst out from his body. He was furious. He was going to launch a desperate counterattack. Whoosh! At that moment, Su Xiaoma circled behind him and used the 6th style of blazing palm again, knocking He Zongying, who was about to explode, several meters away. He had only released a little bit of Wuzong's cultivation, and he had relied on 2 types of Taishan Shengzong martial arts to beat him so badly that he could not tell which way was north. This guy was truly trash. He was not trash either. With his cultivation, he could suppress any disciple of the same level if he went to a second-rate or third-rate sect. Unfortunately, Su Xiaoma, who had walked out of the sect of all times, had gone through all kinds of training and experience. Even if he was only a rank 1 or rank 2 Wuzong, he could completely suppress him with his rich combat experience. If I'm going to fight, I'll fight big. Whoosh! Su Xiaoma quickly closed in and unleashed a barrage of attacks. Scorching hot palm prints filled the training grounds and waves of heat swept out in all directions. What he needed to do was not give He Zongying a chance to counterattack and completely crush him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Boom! 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 Under the concentrated attacks, He Zongying was beaten back again and again. He did not even have the chance to charge up and explode. He was in an extremely difficult situation. The outer sect disciple's mouth twitched violently. He was one of the favorites to win the championship, yet he was beaten so badly by an outer sect disciple who had just joined the sect not long ago. Oh my god! Sun Ningquan was still in a state of shock. He said dumbfoundedly, Go Shenghe, he's so strong. Xia Shuiyan thought to herself, he's already thought it through. He's planning to use his true strength to tell his fellow disciples that he's not just a sucker for flattery and bootlicker. Boom! He Zongying wanted to explode, but this kind of battle could only rely on shouting, so Su Xiaoma punched him in the face. He staggered a few steps back and almost fell on his butt. They're not on the same level. The elders shook their heads. From the short exchange, they could already tell that while Su Xiaoma's cultivation was not very high, his combat experience and martial arts usage were completely superior. Surprise! A very big surprise. A smile appeared on Third Elder's face. There were many disciples who joined the top sects every year, so it was normal for unexpected geniuses to appear. However, this Go Sheng gave Third Elder the feeling that while his cultivation was not high, his combat and martial arts usage were very experienced. Without the guidance of a master, it was impossible for him to reach such a level. Boom! At that moment He Zongying, who was completely suppressed, could not withstand the bombardment. In the end, he was knocked out of the training field and sat on the ground. His expression was ferocious, and intense pain came from all over his body. Senior He, Su Xiaoma stood on the stage and saluted. Thank you for letting me win. First battle. Third Elder did not waste any time and immediately announced, Go Sheng wins. He Zongying is eliminated. Chapter 870. Su Xiaoma defeated He Zongying, who had the highest chance of becoming an inner sect disciple in the lower realm. After the Third Elder's announcement, the scene fell into a temporary silence. Even if a needle fell, it could be heard clearly. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, Sun Ningquan laughed loudly and shouted, Junior brother Sun is mighty. His relationship with Su Xiaoma was already very close. Now that he defeated the seemingly unreachable He Zongying, he was definitely overjoyed. Amazing! Junior brother Su is so strong. We've all underestimated him. Although the disciples who originally thought that He Zongying would definitely win were slapped in the face, they still looked at Su Xiaoma with admiration in their eyes. Defeating a strong opponent with fair strength in the ring would naturally earn the respect of other martial artists. Of course, without any foreshadowing, many disciples would subconsciously wonder how Go Sheng could defeat He Zongying. How? By cultivating hard and relying on various resources. Pft! He Zongying, who was paralyzed on the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood. Clearly, he could not accept losing to a new disciple, and losing in the first round of the outer sect assessment. Contestants number 1 and 2 come on stage. The Third Elder shouted. Although Su Xiaoma's strong performance gave him quite a surprise, the outer sect assessment still had to continue. Swoosh! Swoosh! Contestants who drew number 1 and 2 went on stage to battle. At this point, the outer sect assessment began to proceed in an orderly manner. As the winner, Su Xiaoma only needed to wait for the next round. Boom! Senior brother Qin, Thank you for letting me win. In the ring, Su Xiaoma clasped his hands and said. Below the ring, Disciple Qin clasped his hands and said, Junior brother Su's cultivation is strong. I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. After defeating the favorite for the championship, He Zhongying, no one was surprised that Su Xiaoma won the second round. They had even concluded that the champion of this assessment would be none other than him. In a similar battle mode, Su Xiaoma continued the Sect of all time's fine tradition of making it simpler, and simpler the more he fought. This was not. After a few words, the finals of the outer court exam had arrived. Su Xiaoma still relied on two types of martial arts to easily defeat his opponent and become the champion of this assessment. It's too simple. There's no suspense at all. All the disciples were speechless. Come to think of it, only Su Xiaoma and He Zhongying's battle in the entire outer sect examination could be considered exciting. The first round of the competition could be called the finals. Su Guosheng came out on top in this year's outer court examination. He is rewarded with 500 merit points and 20 natural spirit stones. The third elder announced loudly. After the award ceremony he said, Come to the main hall. Yes. Su Xiaoma thought to himself, the result of being reckless is to be the center of attention. In the main hall, Su Xiaoma stood there obediently. A few elders sat at the front and released their spiritual senses at all times, hoping to find out more about this kid. Unfortunately, once the hidden cultivation technique from the upper realm was activated, it only showed them what they wanted to see. Little fellow, the third elder said, do you want to say it yourself, or do I have to wait for someone to ask? Reporting to the elders, Su Xiaoma said loudly, My name is Su Jintang. I live in Sajiago in the southern Baron state. When I was young, I met a senior who called himself Old Man Juntian. Then, I became his disciple and cultivated martial arts for a few years. Now that things had come to this, there was no way he could hide it anymore. He took the initiative to say it, and the elders nodded. Old Man Juntian, the third elder touched his chin and said, I've never heard of this person. Reporting to the elders, Su Xiaoma said, Master once said that he rarely stepped into the Jianghu. He likes to travel between mountains and rivers. So he's a hermit. Many martial artists from the Falling Star continent went to the sands of Ganges. It was likely that there were many powerhouses who did not care about fame and fortune, and lived a carefree life. The most famous one was the Taishan old man. Such a super powerhouse who could cross the void only passed down 2 cultivation techniques above the divine grade. There were very few other deeds related to him. So, you already had the cultivation of Wuzong before you joined the sect? Reporting to the elders, I broke through during this 1 month of cultivation. It's all thanks to the sect's resources, and the natural spirit stones given by senior brother Sun and sister Xia. It's hard to break through to Wuzong in such a short time, without an extremely high spiritual root. Come. The third elder waved his hand, and took out something like a glass ball. He said, put your palm on it. Su Xiaoma knew that it was used to test the spiritual root. So he took 2 steps forward, and put his right hand on it. Then, he used the hidden cultivation technique to suppress the level of his spiritual root. Whoosh! After a while, the glass ball flashed and showed a slightly red color. The third elder said, So it's a supreme grade spiritual root. The other elders whispered to each other. Su Xiaoma thought to himself, the patriarch's hidden cultivation technique is really awesome. It can even suppress the level of my spiritual root. It's normal for someone with a supreme grade spiritual root to break through to Wuzong in such a short time, by relying on a large amount of spirit stones and resources. Many of the elders came to this conclusion, and they could understand why Su Xiaoma had become so strong. Little guy, the third elder smiled and said, You've hidden your strength well. Su Xiaoma scratched his head and said, When I went down the mountain, Master told me to keep a low profile and never show off. All the elders burst into laughter. It was reasonable for a hermit to teach a low-profile disciple. You can leave now. The third elder waved his hand. Yes. Su Xiaoma left. After returning to his room, he picked up the teapot and gulped down the tea. When he was in the main hall, He was very nervous when facing a group of senior Taishan Xingzong officials. He was afraid that he would expose himself and be questioned by them. Now that I've shown them my supreme-grade spiritual root, they will definitely investigate my identity. I hope I don't give myself away. Su Xiaoma thought to himself. As expected, the elders in the main hall were still discussing Su Xiaoma, and they had already ordered the intelligence division to investigate this Su Jintang as soon as possible. It wasn't that they suspected him of being a spy. It was that supreme-grade spiritual root was already considered excellent. A large sect would naturally do things according to the rules and thoroughly investigate his identity. It was unlike the sect of all times, because there were various restrictions, and there was no need to worry about secrets being leaked. The disciples' identities were not checked too much. As long as they passed the test, they would be accepted into the sect. The Taishan Xingzong acted quickly. In just a few days, they found information about Su Jintang, and it was the same as what Su Xiaoma said. Su Jintang really existed in the Falling Star continent, and he did live in Sajiago in the southern Barren state. He had a supreme-grade spiritual root, but he left home when he was 8 or 9 years old. Where was he? In the sect of all times. The Taishan Xingzong definitely couldn't find this, and old man Jun Tian. Everyone, the third elder said, Su Jintang's spiritual root is not bad, and he was accepted as a disciple by a hidden cultivator when he was young. I think he is worth nurturing. This child is smooth and slick, and he doesn't like to show off in front of others. He is indeed a good seedling that can be nurtured. Elder Sun expressed his opinion. As long as he had the chance, he would definitely put in a good word for Su Xiaoma in front of the elders. After all, he had placed his son there. Elder Xia said, we can give him this chance. With 2 elders expressing their opinions, the other higher-ups also agreed. So after some consideration, the third elder announced, make Su Jintang a member of the Inspection Pavilion. The Inspection Pavilion was a special department of the Taishan Xingzong. The disciples who entered all had various kinds of potential and enjoyed a certain amount of martial arts resources. If they performed well in the future, it would not be a problem for them to be promoted to the inner sect. Patriarch. When Su Xiaoma learned from Sun Yingquan that he had become a member of the Inspection Pavilion, he thought to himself, this disciple has gained the trust of the higher-ups. The next step is to be promoted to a disciple, and even become a core disciple. Jun Changshao, who was in the sect of all times, leaned back in his chair and crossed his legs after receiving the information from Li Luoqiu. He smiled and said, my precious disciple, when the day comes, I hope you will have become one of the important higher-ups in the Taishan Xingzong. Chapter 871. There was no time for Jun Changshao to reel in the net. Therefore, it was still unknown how far Su Xiaoma's undercover journey was, and how far he could go. However, with this guy's slick personality, deliberately releasing his spiritual root and cultivation, and with the help of Sun Yingquan, Xia Shuiyan, and the 2 elders, it would be easy for him to climb up. The plan is going smoothly. However, I still have to keep a low profile to avoid causing trouble in the sect. The Taishan Xingzong's waters were very deep. The outer sect was just the tip of the iceberg. There were inner sect and core disciples above it. He naturally had to tread on thin ice and couldn't relax at all. To be exact, Su Xiaoma walked the path of a protagonist growing in the sect, but he couldn't be like a real protagonist who could do anything. In the future, he would deliberately interact with Xia Shuiyan more, because Elder Xia's prestige in the elders group was higher than Elder Sun's. Of course, after being taught by Elder Wei, Su Xiaoma always maintained an ambiguous relationship with that cold woman. Let's go and do the mission. One day, Xia Shuiyan appeared again. You have to go. Okay. For the next few days, the 2 often appeared together in the mission pavilion, accepted missions and left together. After He Zongying was defeated, it was as if he disappeared. In a world where martial arts were the most important, if you didn't have the strength to face competitors, you could only be a single dog for the rest of your life. Sorry, I'm not targeting some single readers, but please don't be sad or discouraged. As long as you are willing to work hard, you will definitely continue to be single. Junior brother Su and junior sister Xia are getting closer and closer. Although I feel that Su Jintang isn't good enough for Xia Shuiyan, he has a supreme grade spiritual root and has a better chance than us. TSK, junior brother Su is really good at hiding. No wonder he defeated senior brother He. As Su Xiaoma and Xia Shuiyan interacted more and more frequently, the outer sect of the Taishan Xingzong discussed them more and more. Some even guessed that they might have already decided to be a couple. Taishan Xingzong did not object to disciples falling in love. He was more open-minded about this. Su Xiaoma had naturally heard of the discussions in the outside world. He helplessly said to himself, "My relationship with her isn't as exaggerated as you say." Xia Shuiyan's personality was cold and taciturn. Although the two of them interacted more and more frequently, the whole process was about accepting missions, completing missions, and handing in missions. Even if they occasionally talked, it was about martial arts. Of course, Su Xiaoma hoped to establish a relationship with this girl that surpassed that of fellow disciples. After all, if he could form a good relationship with Elder Xia, it would be beneficial for his future development in the sect. However, every time he thought about his real identity as a disciple of the Eternal Sect, if he made her fall in love with him, and after the sect leader pulled the net, he would say to her, "Sorry, I'm actually a spy." That would be too damn shameful. Su Xiaoma said to himself, "You can't do that when it comes to relationships." The sect of all times and the Taishan Shengzong did not have any grudges, and they were not here to cause trouble. Therefore, they had to restrain themselves and leave without any burden after completing the mission. "What are you thinking about?" On the way to complete the mission, Xia Shuiyan looked at him. "No, nothing. Recently, the matter between you and me has been spreading like wildfire in the sect." "Yes." Xia Shuiyan stopped in her tracks and turned her back to Su Xiaoma. "I only decided to help you because I felt that you have a lot of potential. Don't let your imagination run wild because of the rumors outside." Su Xiaoma was speechless as she thought to herself, "What nonsense am I thinking?" "Of course," Xia Shuiyan said. "It's not that you're not worthy of me, but that I'm not interested in relationships." After saying that, she walked straight away. Su Xiaoma's mouth twitched slightly. "Does this woman think that I'll pursue her?" "Senior sister." He hurriedly chased after her and said very seriously, "Actually, I'm not interested in relationships either." "That's for the best," Xia Shuiyan said. Boom! Boom! In the wilderness, a huge ninth-rank feral beast raised its thick forelimbs and attacked wildly. "Icy sword aura! Ding! Ding! Ding!" Xia Shuiyan came over with her sword. She condensed her sword aura and hit the stone-like skin of the beast. Instantly there was a crisp sound. Roar! The big beast roared and swung its thick tail fiercely. "Not good." Xia Shuiyan's expression changed slightly. "Senior sister, be careful." At this moment, Su Xiaomo rushed over from the side and pushed the woman who couldn't dodge away. Then the tail hit him directly in the chest. He flew out and sank into the stone wall with a bang. Wah! He spat out a mouthful of blood and then rushed over with the 9 winding shadow steps. He grabbed Xia Shuiyan, who had just stabilized herself, and left this place as quickly as possible. Night fell. A bonfire rose in the cave. Xia Shuiyan sat on the side and leaned against the pheasant in a panic. She didn't seem to be very good at it. Wah! Su Xiaoma, who was in the middle of healing, spat out a mouthful of black blood. His brows gradually relaxed. "Are you okay?" Xia Shuiyan asked. Su Xiaomo replied, "Yes, I'm okay." Xia Shuiyan didn't say anything and continued to roast the pheasant. The atmosphere fell into an awkward state again. Su Xiaoma had long been accustomed to this kind of lack of verbal communication, so he got up and walked over. He said, "It's all burnt. Let me do it." Xia Shuiyan stepped aside. Su Xiaoma took out a cleaned pheasant and skillfully stuck it on a wooden stick and began to roast it. Xia Shuiyan didn't say anything, but her eyes were fixed on it, as if she was memorizing the entire process, so that she could do it herself next time. "Senior sister." After a while, Su Xiaoma said, "Junior brother feels that sometimes you are too rash. For example, last time at the Een Mountain Ridge, And this time, you acted rashly without confirming the target's strength. I'm happy to do so, Xia Shuiyan said lightly. This woman still didn't realize her mistake. How lucky must she be to be able to survive until now? A cold woman was definitely a chatterbox. Su Xiaoma simply stopped talking. Here. A quarter of an hour later, he handed over the roasted pheasant and said, "It's ready to eat." Xia Shuiyan took it without hesitation. After eating, she pointed outside and said, "Old rules." Okay. Su Xiaoma stood up. The so-called old rules meant that if they were sleeping in the wild, she would sleep in the cave, and he would sleep outside the cave. After all, men and women were different. In fact, they used to sleep in the cave at the same time. But when Su Xiaoma turned around while sleeping, Xia Shuiyan suddenly became alert. A cold current erupted, and almost froze him into an ice cube. From then on, Su Xiaoma used the excuse of, "I'll go outside to keep watch," to maintain an absolute safe distance from this woman. Thud. Just as he got up, the small exquisite bottle tucked in his belt fell down. Xia Shuiyan glanced at it and said lightly, "Didn't I finish this bottle of tranquil heart and icy skin pills long ago? Why do you still have it?" Su Xiaoma picked it up and wiped off the dust on it with his sleeve. He said, "Seeing your sister is the first girl to give me something. Naturally, I have to keep it as a memento." At this time, if Elder Wei was present, he would definitely give him a thumbs up in praise. "Young man, you're worth teaching." "Idiot," Xia Shui said faintly. However, the layer of ice around her heart once again melted a little under her careless touch. "I'm going out. Come back and guard the door." Okay. In the middle of the night, Su Xiaoma habitually turned over, and suddenly felt a burst of cold air approaching and enveloping his whole body in an instant. He was so cold that his body trembled. He woke up with a whoosh and ran outside with his short legs. I shouldn't have slept in there. Chapter 872. Su Xiaoma was currently in the Taishan Shengzong, experiencing something that only the main character would experience. As the main character of the sect of all times, Jun Changshao was currently standing in the grassland, looking at the grass growing on the hilltop. A smile gradually appeared on his face. This kind of life of nurturing disciples in the sect, planting flowers and raising fish, was actually quite good. At least it was better in terms of freedom. Unfortunately, Jun Changshao had a soul bomb tied to him, and he still had to complete the main storyline mission. He was destined to give up everything for the sake of strengthening his sect. Patriarch. Elder Wei came to see him. The new batch of herbs has matured. Should we harvest them now? Now immediately. The smile on Jun Changshao's face became even brighter. Recently, all kinds of herbs were planted in the herb field to refine high-quality healing pills. They were also a big reason for going to the planar battlefield. Not long after, various kinds of herbs were delivered. Jun Changshao put them into his space ring, opened the pill pavilion and tapped on the pills. The number of high-quality healing pills that could be refined was 423. After confirming the refinement, he muttered, 400 should be enough for now. He only planned to bring the sect's elites to the planar battlefield, so there wouldn't be a lot of people. A few pills for each person would be enough. Jun Changshao opened the mission panel and saw that there was less than a month left before the completion of the epic mission. He shook his head and sighed. Counting the days is simply torture. Patriarch. Li Qingyang transmitted. City Lord Mu is here to see you. Oh. Jun Changshao replied and returned to the main hall. When he walked in and saw Mu Changhong, he clasped his hands and said, City Lord Mu, we haven't seen each other for a while. Mu Changhong said, the royal city is busy. I can't find time. Jun Changshao sat on the patriarch's chair and said with a smile, your daughter is very diligent in her cultivation. She has already broken through to rank 6 Martial King. If it was in the past, Mu Changhong would definitely be overjoyed. But now he sighed. City Lord Mu, why are you sighing? In Jun Changshao's impression, this city lord always had a smile on his face. He gave people the feeling that no matter what he faced, he could face it with a smile. Calm, Mu Changhong said. Jun, to be honest, I've been very irritated recently. Irritated? It seems like City Lord Mu has something on his mind. Jun Changshao assumed the posture of a little sister, who was willing to listen to her worries and help her solve her problems. After a moment of silence, Mu Changhong said in a serious tone, "Sect Master Jun, have you heard of the plain battlefield?" Jun's face. "I even went in and was beaten unconscious by an earth expert." Mu Changhong looked at the expression on his face and realized that very few people knew about this kind of thing. How could he possibly know about it? Thus she explained, "The dimensional battlefield is an independent space created by the great beings of the upper realm, using their extraordinary abilities. When the powerhouses of various planes enter it, they can only fight endlessly." "Is that so?" Jun Changshao pretended to be curious. In terms of acting, Su Xiaoma was definitely not better than him. After all, he had read the book The Self-Cultivation of Actors in that world. This was not bragging. If Jun Changshao gave up on managing the sect and went to Taishan Shengzong as a spy, he would definitely be better off than a disciple. Of course, because of some innate attribute, he might not be as good as Su Xiaoma in some aspects. For example, "Forget it. I'll see through it and not expose it. I'll give Su Xiaoma some face." Mu Changhong said, "The planar battlefield randomly chooses a location every 5 years. 2,000 emperor-level cultivators must be sent in to fight." "There's such a thing." Jun Changshao's face was full of surprise. He was not pretending. He really had never heard of it. Moreover, Jun Changshao suddenly thought of something. He hurriedly said, "Our Starfall continent won't be chosen, right?" "That's right." When he said those 2 words, Mu Changhong's expression was filled with sorrow and pain. He hoped that this was a joke played by the altar. But in reality, they had to enter the planar battlefield to fight. "Go in now." 5 years later, Jun Changshao said, "It's still early." "So," Mu Changhong said with difficulty, "I really hope that Red Lotus won't break through Wu Huang in 5 years." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Which parent doesn't want their children to have higher cultivation? "Why do you have such thoughts, City Lord Mu?" "Sigh." Mu Changhong sighed and said, "According to the rules of the higher realm, our Starfall continent must send 2,000 Wu Huang cultivators to fight in the planar battlefield for 5 years. If the number of cultivators we send in reaches a certain number, we must continue to send them in. City Lord Mu is worried that your daughter will break through Wu Huang and enter the planar battlefield?" Jun Changshao asked. "Yes," Mu Changhong said. "I've lived for several hundred years. It doesn't matter if I die in there. But my daughter is still very young. If something happens to her..." At this point, his voice began to tremble, and tears gathered at the corners of his eyes. He was a half-saint and also a father. How could he accept his daughter dying in the planar battlefield? "It's not that serious, right?" Jun Changshao said. Although the planar battlefield was cruel, if enough emperor-level cultivators and top-tier cultivators were sent, they might not necessarily be inferior to the cultivators of other planes. The system said, "Host, you're using your own sect's strength to measure, so there's no problem. However, the emperor-level cultivators of the Starfall continent are much weaker in the planar battlefield. For example, the yellow-level cultivators of other planes. Their overall strength is generally higher than that of the Wu Huang cultivators of the Starfall continent. If they go in, they're basically courting death. And this half-saint City Lord Mu, do you think he's stronger than the Xian-level cultivators you've killed before?" After listening to the system, Jun Changshao fell into silence. After fighting in the planar battlefield and killing many cultivators who besieged him, there was one thing he had to admit. In the same realm, they were stronger than the cultivators of the Starfall continent. To explain it in professional terms, the Xian-level cultivators of other planes were all at the extreme level. City Lord Mu was nothing more than a high-level cultivator. Although the realm was the same, there was a difference in strength. Of course, Jun Patriarch could do whatever he wanted in there. Firstly, he relied on various equipment. Secondly, he was at the supreme level. There was no problem for him to jump levels. He was invincible in the same realm. Sigh. City Lord Mu sighed and said, "This time, our Starfall continent has been chosen. It's undoubtedly a huge disaster. You can't refuse?" "No." Jun Changshao secretly said, quite overbearing. Since the War of the Emperors, the Starfall continent's heaven and earth attributes have been deteriorating. How can we compete with the other planes and expand our territory? Mu Changhong's face became more and more ugly. Expand our territory? Jun Changshao said. What do you mean? Mu Changhong briefly explained the matter, and then said, according to the rules of the upper realm, if you develop your territory to the size of a town, you can apply to come out in advance. Only in this way can the losses be minimized. I see. Jun Changshao understood, but muttered in his heart, expanding to the size of a town is not difficult. Chapter 873. The rule of the planar battlefield was that as long as one side expanded their territory to the size of a town, they could apply to leave in advance. In Jun Changshao's opinion, this was very easy. After all, although he was beaten up by the Earth-ranked powerhouses in the planar battlefield, the stronghold representing the falling star continent had expanded a lot due to his hard work. Hard work? The system complained. Are you sure you weren't surrounded and forced to fight back? This was still very casual. If he brought Old Ding and the Purple King and seriously fought, even if it didn't expand to the size of a town, it wouldn't be a problem to expand to the size of a city. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Jun Changshao thought of something and said to himself, isn't the falling star continent only accessible after 5 years? Why did the stronghold representing the falling star continent come out in advance? The system said, the host is a martial artist from the falling star continent. Naturally, the falling star continent's territory was designated after sneaking in. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. You mean they'll be teleported there when they enter the planar battlefield 5 years later? Should be, the system said. Jun Changshao's expression immediately became interesting. I can bring my disciples there in advance. If we expand the territory inside in 5 years, won't they be stunned when they come in? The system said, that's true. With the teleportation gate, Jun Patriarch could bring disciples who met the requirements into the planar battlefield at any time. This was equivalent to being 5 years faster than the falling star continent. The female system had said that the territory could only be seized for 1 year, so they would definitely go in frequently. After 5 years, the territory inside would be expanded to a city. When the falling star continent martial artists came in, the scene would definitely be City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao said, Red Lotus's aptitude is good. If she really wants to break through, there's no stopping her. So don't be too pessimistic. Why don't we take one step at a time? Maybe we'll be able to come out immediately after entering the planar battlefield 5 years later. Since he knew that the falling star continent was chosen to participate in the planar battlefield, as a native here, he had to do something for everyone. The system, the people in the Decimo Suicide Tower didn't want to take the mission, saying there were benefits, so they reluctantly accepted it. What would the host do for everyone out of kindness? Impossible. Please. Jun Changshao broke down. Don't think of me as such a selfish person. After all, I'm also a part of the Starfall continent. Right away. Mu Changhong shook his head and said bitterly, to tell you the truth, Jun Patriarch, I and some of the other martial practitioners who are preparing to enter are all prepared to die in battle. The altars informed many major sects and factions about the matter of participating in the planar battlefield, as well as the top loose cultivators. Those who decided to go to the front lines didn't plan on coming back alive. They did everything they could to expand their territories and fight for a chance to survive for their juniors. Mu Changhong thought so too. The only thing he and the other experts of the older generation could do was to sacrifice themselves to prevent more falling star continent cultivators from dying. They were undoubtedly great, but at the same time, they were forced to do so because they could not disobey the will of the upper realm, and they could not avoid it either. They could only choose to contribute. It's not that exaggerated. Jun Changshao comforted him. Maybe there will be a miracle when that day comes. Miracle? Mu Changhong smiled bitterly. However, he could also see that Jun Changshao did not care about the planar battlefield. This was understandable. After all, he was still very young and did not have much experience. Moreover, the sect was prospering day by day. It was inevitable that he would have the mentality of, who else can do it but me? June Patriarch. Mu Changheng said. You've also reached emperor level. Although you're not in the list of the first batch to enter, you still have to be prepared at all times. This was the purpose of his visit to the sect of all times today. It was not to visit his daughter, but to remind Jun Changxiao so that he could be prepared for the battle within 5 years. In fact, Go Sheng had been preparing all this time. He had been preparing for almost a year. In a month's time, he would bring people to kill their way in and take revenge on the Earth-ranked powerhouse. City Lord Mu. Jun Changxiao leaned forward slightly and said in a low voice, Say, if a miracle happens 5 years later, and we can safely pass the tribulation, but we have to pay a certain amount of natural spirit stones, will you agree? Look, the system said, I guessed right. Do something for the falling star continent out of kindness? Tui. It obviously did not have good intentions. This safety, is it referring to the falling star continent? That's fine. Mu Changheng did not hesitate and replied directly. If the falling star continent can safely pass this tribulation, not to mention natural spirit stones, we'll give you anything you want. Do the other cultivators think so too? Jun Changxiao asked. Mu Changheng said seriously, the planar battlefield is extremely dangerous. Our falling star continent is far weaker than other planes. If we go in, we'll be sending our heads to our deaths. If we can pass this tribulation, not only will we avoid death, but we can also continue to be the top power of the continent. Any powerhouse will agree. Resources were indeed very important. However, they were not worth mentioning for the lives and the future of the entire falling star continent. Understood. Jun Changxiao relaxed and said with a smile, City Lord Mu, as the saying goes, if you're sincere, it will happen. Maybe a miracle will happen 5 years later. He had already decided that going to the planar battlefield for revenge was too low. Since he was a member of the falling star continent, he had to do something for everyone. He had to help them pass this tribulation. Responsibility. A man's responsibility. Jun Changxiao. I'm willing to shed my blood for the falling star continent. The system broke down and said, what the host is thinking now is whether the price will be based on the number of people, or the number of teams in 5 years' time. Father, why are your eyes red? I'm cultivating in the sect of all times. I'm very happy that you're able to become a rank 7 martial king so quickly. Mu Changheng was trying his best to make himself look happy, so that his daughter would not worry. Mu Honglian did not think too much about it. She said with a determined look, Father, I'll definitely become an emperor in the shortest time possible. Those words caused Mu Changheng's mood, which had been lifted with great difficulty, to fall to the bottom. He did not take the miracle that Jun Changxiao had mentioned to heart. He was already prepared to die in battle. If his daughter became an emperor, she would definitely follow his path. Father, why are you crying? Mu Honglian was confused when she saw the tears in her father's eyes. Mu Changheng quickly raised his sleeve to wipe away his tears. He forced a smile and said, I'm just happy. After chatting with his daughter for a while, he left the sect of all times. His back seemed to be very old. Jun Patriarch is right. If I really want to break through, I can't stop it. I can only take it one step at a time. As for Mu Changheng stopped at the foot of the mountain and looked up at the sky. He prayed in his heart. I hope that a miracle will happen one day. Patriarch. Mu Honglian was puzzled. My father is a little strange. Jun Changxiao, who was standing outside the palace, said with his hands behind his back, You're breaking through at lightning speed. It's normal that you're crying tears of joy. His spiritual sense kept track of the old man's back. He thought to himself, City Lord Mu, don't worry. As long as I'm here, there will be miracles. Chapter 874. Su Xiaoma was undercover in Taishan Xingzong as usual. Jun Changxiao was also actively preparing to enter the dimensional battlefield. Knowing that the falling star continent would participate in the dimensional battlefield in 5 years, even a half-saint like City Lord Mu went in with the mentality of suicide. He decided to do something. Previously, He entered the dimensional battlefield to cause trouble purely for personal grudges. Now it had risen to the level of a country. Of course, this premise couldn't be separated from benefits. There was nothing wrong with Jun Changshao thinking this way. If the falling star continent wanted a miracle, they couldn't just rely on praying. They had to at least do something. Not to mention, Jun Changshao put his hands in front of the camera. His handsome face leaned over and said seriously, "The dimensional battlefield is extremely dangerous. If I bring people there, they might die at any time. Is it too much to ask for some benefits?" Swoosh. He stepped out of the hall and entered the space-time secret realm. He began to accelerate his cultivation for the next 3 days. In the past year, although the 2 epic missions suppressed his realm and made cultivation meaningless, he could still comprehend martial arts. For example, the Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm. This palm technique had only been used to demolish buildings in the 9 Poison Temple. Its presence was very low. It wasn't that Jun Changshao didn't want to use it. It was mainly because he hadn't reached a certain level of comprehension. Its power wasn't as direct and straightforward as the red sky flame slash. Whoosh whoosh. In the secret realm, a powerful airwave formed and gradually condensed into 10 seemingly real dragon elephants. They emitted an ancient and desolate aura, as if 10 ancient beasts walked out of the void. Jun Changshao stood straight like a javelin. Then, he flipped his right hand and pressed down. Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm. Whoosh whoosh. Boom. 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 The power of 10 dragon elephants smashed down from above, and the moment it came into contact with the ground, it produced a powerful force that shocked Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuiji, and the others. Wait. Why are we here? When the patriarch is showing off, you have to be surprised. This was one of the rules of the sect of all times. When Jun Changshao first comprehended the Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm, he could only condense 1 strand of dragon elephant energy. Now that he had condensed 10 strands, his improvement was actually quite fast. In the long run, 100, 1,000, 10,000, according to the gigantic physiques of dragons and elephants, the more there were, the wider the world would need to be. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to contain them. Actually, it could be made into a pocket-sized version. At Jun Changshao's current level, he was unable to do so for the time being. Withdrawing his aura, he said, "I've finally comprehended 10 strands of Dracophant force. However, from the looks of it, I won't be able to gather more unless I break through to the half-step Saint realm. If one wanted to comprehend a powerful martial skill to a higher level, one had to have a strong cultivation base. If he gave the green dragon crescent blade to a weak scholar, he would probably only be able to barely shave his beard." Opening the mission panel, there were only 10 days left until the settlement date. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "I'm willing to use 10 days of my lifespan in exchange for the completion of the mission." "What about 10 years? Then forget it, I'll just wait." In the beginning, Jun Changshao came to the space-time mystery realm on a whim, hoping to complete the mission in advance by accelerating time. However, after entering, the mission's countdown was fixed. Obviously, he could not take advantage of it. No rush, no rush. Jun Changshao comforted himself. It'll happen sooner or later. After he bought the Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm and returned to the sect, he had made countless copies and distributed them to Li Qingyang and the others. However, because he had temporarily focused on leveling up, he did not really comprehend it much. Now that he had reached the peak of the Martial King realm, it would take a long time for him to enter Wuhuang, so he had time to cultivate. The one with the best performance was He Wudi. Because he entered the realm quickly and had enough time to cultivate, he had already gathered 4 strands of Dracophant force. Yi Xingchen broke through to the Martial Emperor realm 1 step later than him. After comprehending the Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm, he had successfully gathered 2 strands of Dracophant force. As the leader and second in charge of the brainstorming trio, he had been shocked by this martial art long before he started cultivating. His crazy imagination must have come from the upper realm. Actually, his imagination was not bad. It was hard to find a martial art at the level of the Dragon Elephant Prajna Palm in the lower realm. Whoosh! Li Qingyang recited the incantation, and an ancient aura erupted from his body, forming a dragon and an elephant. Although his aura was far from Jun Changxiao's, he had at least grasped the basics. Xiao Ziji Li Fei and the others were also comprehending it. With their talent and hard work, as well as the help of the space-time mystery realm, comprehending this powerful martial art was not a problem. Jiang Ya, the Ning brothers, and the others had already started comprehending the dragon-elephant Prajnapam long ago. Their progress was much faster than the disciples. At present, although the high-level martial arts of the sect of all times were not as rich as those of the major sects, they were at least stronger than them in terms of level, and had more development prospects. When we reach the realm battlefield, the disciples will gather the Dracophant force. The scene will be beautiful. Jun Changxiao was looking forward to it. Whoosh whoosh. When there were 5 days left until the settlement date, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from the female disciple's room. Qianqian is about to break through? Jun Changxiao, who was sitting in the room, was surprised. That woman often used her coldness to hide everything, and he could not wear sunglasses every day. Therefore, he did not expect that she would be the second disciple after he Wudi to become an emperor. Of course, he was only surprised by the breakthrough. It was understandable that she became an emperor. After all, she had inherited the legacy of the Frost Empress in Lu Prefecture. Damn it! Yi Xingchen clenched his fist and said, "Another disciple is one step ahead of me." As a reborn martial emperor, he had a lot of martial arts experience. In the end, he Wudi and Lu Qianqian broke through Wu Huang one step ahead of him. This made him feel very ashamed. "Anyo, don't cry, don't be angry. It's not that you are not good enough. It's that your unique advantage is not reflected in the sect of all times." Whoosh whoosh, a strong wave of air whistled out, containing a gush of cold air. What was originally a scorching summer season had suddenly turned into a freezing winter. Some disciples were wearing thin clothes. Under the influence of the cold air, they either silently activated the 5 elements heavenly reflection seals fire element to raise their body temperature, or put on winter clothes. This strong cold air from Siberia lasted for about an hour before it dissipated. When everything returned to normal, everyone silently took off their winter clothes. One moment it was cold, the next it was hot. The feeling of ice and fire was not pleasant. "You broke through?" "I broke through." Lu Qianqian habitually leaned against the door and clasped her hands together. Because of the breakthrough, her temperament had changed. She seemed to be colder. If Xia Shuiyin was an iceberg that would not melt for 100 years, then with her Taishian ice heart constitution, she would be an iceberg that would not melt for 10,000 years. Jun Changxiao sat at the head of the table. Because of the cold air, the atmosphere was very awkward. After a while he said, "We will be going to the planar battlefield in a few days. You have to be prepared." "Okay," Lu Qianqian said. "Patriarch, if you have nothing else to say, I will take my leave first." "Go." Jun Changxiao waved his hand and thought to himself, although she is still very cold, her tone is much warmer than before. Everyone in the sect was used to Lu Qianqian's cold personality. Sometimes, when she went out, the feeling of ice and snow disappeared, and they were not used to it. 5 more days. Jun Changxiao leaned against his chair and wailed, "Come quickly. I am so anxious that I have constipation for a few days." Chapter 875. Time passed day by day. Li Qingyang and the others were actively cultivating, preparing to enter the planar battlefield. Our Jun Changxiao would sometimes squat in the toilet with a bitter expression, sometimes tossing and turning in bed in the middle of the night, unable to sleep. 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 50 seconds, 40 seconds, Jun Changxiao sat in his study, his eyes never leaving the mission panel that only he could see. The final minute of the epic mission was also counting down. Damn it! He had been waiting for a year. It felt as long as 10,000 years. Beep, beep, beep. The time kept ticking, until it reached 10 seconds. Jun Changxiao stood up, stretched out his hands and sang with deep emotions, "Come, come, meet in 98, meet under the silver moonlight." Ding. Sect level reached 4th rate. Top 80 on the Heroes Seeking Deities board. Met the requirements. Epic mission completed. Completion rate 125%. Host has received 20,000 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution points. 442,005,0000. Ding. Sect contribution points overflow. After the time reached 0, a beautiful notification sounded in his ears. Jun Changshao stopped wailing, and a calm expression appeared on his face. Don't be anxious, don't be anxious. This was just the beginning. The real show was coming, because he had to collect the rewards of the 2 epic missions. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Epic Mission 7. You have received Supreme Grade Aptitude Modifying Liquid X10, High Grade True Young Battle Boots Formula X1, High Grade True Young Battle Robe Formula X1, High Grade True Young Mask Formula X1, High Grade Steel Wings Formula X1. Hearing that there were 3 types of equipment with similar names, Jun Changshao was a little stunned. This seemed like a set of equipment in a game. Also, he had received a top-tier True Yang sword formula. Could it be that the 4 were one? And the steel wings? Could it be that they were similar to the mechanical wings? Ding! Congratulations to host for completing Epic Mission 8. You have received Saint Aptitude Modifying Elixir X5, Medium Grade Body Shaping Elixir X1, Medium Grade Soul Shaping Elixir X1, Heaven Origin Soul Suppressing Tower X1, and newly opened Talisman X1. Ding! Congratulations host for breaking through to half-step Wuxia. Ding! Ding! The recipes that appeared in the spatial ring were automatically matched. 4 new types of equipment appeared in the smithing pavilion, and 2 new types of pills appeared in the medicinal pill pavilion. Comfortable, perfect. After the notification ended, Jun Changshao put his elbows on the table, covered his right hand with his left hand, and covered his face with his right hand. His body began to tremble slightly, and then there was a devilish laughter. After the completion of the 2 Emperor-level epic-level quests, the rewards were truly plentiful. Not to mention the set equipment, just the Supreme Saint's 2 aptitude liquids, and the intermediate soul molding pill, were already amazing. My 1 year of waiting was not in vain. Jun Changshao was very satisfied, but this wasn't the time to get carried away. He hurriedly opened the forging pavilion and clicked on the equipment with the True Young prefix. Just as he had guessed, this was indeed a set called the True Young 4-piece set. Wearing boots, battle robes, wearing a mask and holding the True Young sword would increase the user's speed, defense and strength by 20%. Only 20%. Jun Changshao was a little dissatisfied. In his opinion, an increase of at least 100% would be considered amazing. The system was speechless. The high-grade equipment in the shop is not inferior to the Falling Star Continent's Saint-level equipment. The minimum requirement to wear it is Martial King. This 20% increase is quite amazing. The strength of low-level martial artists wasn't too different, and it was hard to say who would win. But the higher the level, the greater the impact. The strength of the planar battlefield is generally stronger than the Falling Star Continent. If I wear the True Young 4-piece set, I won't be weak. Jun Changshao thought to himself. The system said, the host's core disciples have gone through all kinds of tempering, and their spirit roots have been upgraded. They are generally at the extreme level. If you have this equipment with a 20% increase, you will be comparable to the superior level. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, these equipment are made of the same materials as the True Yang sword. It's just a matter of quantity. Coincidentally, I have some stock in the ring. I can forge some first. He filled in the quantity and confirmed the forging. Jun Changshao clicked on the high-grade steel wings. The introduction said that this was a type of equipment that could increase flying speed. The advantage was that it could be used immediately. The disadvantage was that it could only be used after reaching the Emperor level. To put it bluntly, it was an auxiliary flying tool. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, it's a far cry from the mechanical wings I bought. Nonsense. This was a reward. The mechanical wings were bought with contribution points. There was definitely a difference. If the reward was better than the shop, would you still be in the mood to spend? Jun Patriarch's current situation was that he had become a VIP. The reward for completing an epic mission was similar to the monthly VIP reward. Although it was useful, if he wanted to be stronger, He could only continue to spend money in the shop. So the slogan was, if you don't have money, you can't play. The steel wings required 6 types of ores, and Jun Changshao just happened to have them. So since he was given them, he might as well forge 20 of them. The advantage of letting the purchasing hall be responsible for purchasing all kinds of things at all times was reflected here. As long as there was a new item, it would be convenient for him to forge it. He didn't have to go to the purchasing hall just to gather enough materials for a piece of equipment. Jun Changshao clicked on the mid-grade body shaping pill and soul shaping pill in the pill pavilion. The use of these 2 items was obvious from their names, but their effects were definitely better than the low-grade ones. He had the materials, but he couldn't mass-produce them. Jun Changshao forged them first, then said, "When we have enough materials, we'll mass-produce them. Make them the Sect's must-take pills." The so-called must-take pills meant that no matter their level, inner or outer sect, as long as they entered the sect of all times and met the requirements, they must take them. These top-grade and holy-grade aptitude liquids will be left for the inner sect disciples. Jun Changshao's spiritual sense entered the space ring and locked onto the exquisite pagoda. He thought, "This is the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda?" The system explained, "It's a treasure." I know. Jun Changshao wasn't a martial arts newbie anymore. Just from the name and appearance, he knew that the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda was a treasure. What he cared about now was what level this thing was, and what use it had. The system said, there are only 3 uses for pagoda. One is that it can be enlarged and has a universe inside, such as the training pagoda. The second is an offensive form that can be used to smash people. The third is a defensive form. I hope it's the second one, Jun Changshao said. He had been smashed by that Earth-ranked powerhouse's palm strike many times in the dimensional battlefield. If he wanted revenge, he would definitely give him a taste of his own medicine. Swoosh! With a wave of his hand, the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda was brought over. Huff huff suddenly, the pagoda released a faint fluorescent light that circled around Jun Changshao like fairies. The system said, "This is to sign a contract with the host." Is that so? Jun Changshao released a wisp of his soul and touched the fluorescent light. He instantly felt an electric current and established some kind of connection with the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda. So simple and convenient. Chapter 876. He only needed to release a wisp of his soul to easily sign a contract with the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda. He did control it, but this thing did not come with an instruction manual. How could he use it? Jun Changshao played with the exquisite pagoda in his palm. He thought about it for a while, but could not figure out the key point. Then he waved his hand. Go, heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Plop. The pagoda fell to the ground without any movement. Jun Changshao, the system. Master is so stupid. At this moment, a light and sweet voice came from the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Then, rays of fluorescent light appeared and turned into the illusion of a 5 or 6-year-old girl. The little girl was not tall, and her black hair was like a waterfall. Her eyes were big and round, and she looked very cute. You're a weapon spirit? Jun Changshao asked. Yes. The little girl smiled. I'm the weapon spirit of the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Master can call me Yingying. Jun Changshao hated Yingying the most in his previous life. He did not expect his newly contracted weapon spirit to have such a name. What should he do? Should he punch it down? Yingying is not a nice name. From now on, you'll be called. Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, Area. The system broke down. This name is comparable to the host's Go Sheng. Yes, master. The weapon spirit smiled. The system, it agreed to such a tacky name without even thinking. Was it because it had a problem with the host's brain that it signed the contract so quickly? Jun Changshao asked, How do I use the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda? Master. Arya smiled sweetly. The heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda has 2 functions. Which one do you want to hear? Both. Jun Changshao said. Arya sat down and put her hands on her ankles. The first function of the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda is to suppress any energy inside, and then slowly purify it for your own use. Oh. Jun Changshao asked curiously. Be more specific? Arya said. Let's put it this way. For example, other people's psionic power cannot be absorbed under normal circumstances. If it is absorbed into the pagoda, after being suppressed and purified, the master can directly absorb it. So powerful, Jun Changshao widened his eyes, suppressing and purifying other people's attributes, and then taking them for oneself. Wasn't that similar to the soul race's absorption ability? Of course. Arya said. The Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda can't actively absorb it. It can only absorb it passively. This involves the second function. Continue, Jun Changshao said. Arya paused and said, the second function is to use it to transform into its final form. It can be used to smash people or defend. Once it enters a defensive state, it will automatically absorb the energy that is within its tolerance range and suppress it. In that case, the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda can be used for both offense and defense. That's right. Jun Changshao was overjoyed and asked, how do I transform into the final form? You need the mnemonic chant to activate it, Arya said. Jun Changshao asked, what mnemonic chant? The mnemonic chant is... Arya stood up and placed her hands in front of her chest to make a heart shape. Then she pushed it out and shouted, go my darling. Jun Changshao's expression froze. After a while he broke down and said, This is the fucking mnemonic chant. Yes, Arya said with a smile. Jun Changshao sat down cross-legged and put a hand on his chin. He said thoughtfully, it's a little hard to say. The system, this was not a little hard to say. This was something that no normal man would do. Jun Changshao could also shout out go, my darling in public, but it was very difficult for him to imitate a little girl and make a heart gesture with his hands. Just this one mnemonic chant. Just this one. Master, I'm going back. Arya had just finished speaking when she returned to the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda. Jun Changshao put his hands behind his back and thought, why don't I give it a try? Ding! The system has entered a temporary dormant state. Even the system couldn't bear to see a man doing such a shameless thing. Cough, cough, cough. Jun Changshao cleared his throat and waved his hand to turn the camera that was aimed at him at any time to one side. Thus, the scene that appeared on the screen of the reader was a void inside the space ring. Go, my darling. The voice came. When the camera adjusted its angle and turned around, Jun Changshao was still standing with his hands behind his back, with the demeanor of a martial arts master. A few feet in front of him, a huge pagoda that was hundreds of feet tall appeared. At the top of the pagoda, there was a faint cloud lingering around, giving off a sacred and inviolable aura. This was the final form of the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda. Very strong, Jun Changshao said. As long as I find the right opportunity to give the Earth-level powerhouse a hard blow, I'll definitely smash him until he can't take care of himself. Ding! The system has restarted. You tried. I tried. The system broke down and said, how shameless can the host be to do such a shameful thing? Thinking of Arya's action just now letting a man do it, it had goosebumps all over its body, although it did not have a body. Shwa! Jun Changshao waved his hand, and the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda turned into a pocket-sized pagoda, and then landed on his palm. He murmured, the vacuum cleaner still has the attributes extracted from Palace Master she sealed in it. Suppressing it in the pagoda should be able to purify it, right? Let's give it a try. Taking the magically modified vacuum cleaner, he immediately entered the soul-suppressing pagoda with a thought. This pagoda only had one floor, and the environment inside was as illusory as the space ring. Master, Arya smiled. Jun Changshao said, just release the energy. Arya nodded. Jun Changshao put down the vacuum cleaner, then turned on the dust collector. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A gush of strange attributes flew out like clouds, and then tried to break through space, but it was fiercely bounced back. Pa! Suddenly, the sound of a whip was heard. Arya held a slender red whip in her hand, and said eerily, coming here means you are my prisoner. If you dare to run around, you must be punished. Pa pa pa! She swung the whip 3 times in a row, hitting the strange attributes. It was strange to say that the energy extracted from Palace Master, she did not have a physical body, but every time the whip hit it, a clear sound could be heard, as if it was hitting a real person. What made Jun Changxiao even more surprised was that the originally scattered strange attributes gradually condensed into a human form after being whipped a few times. Although it had no eyes, nose, or face, it curled up in a corner and trembled. It seemed that it was afraid of being beaten. Master, Arya said proudly, this is the soul-suppressing whip. Any energy that is hit will be forced to condense into a human form and endure the pain caused by the whip until it is beaten into submission. All the harmful energy will be destroyed, and then it can be safely extracted. Do I have to keep hitting it? Keep hitting it. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. He finally understood that the so-called purification of energy, by suppressing it in the soul-suppressing pagoda, was actually whipping. Too cruel, too inhumane. Jun Changxiao turned around and took 2 steps back in fright. 2 burning red candles appeared in Arya's hands out of nowhere. Her little face leaned in front of the fire, and she smiled eerily. Master, this is my second treasure, the soul-suppressing candle. It can also purify harmful energy. Jun Changxiao was speechless. Her cute little face suddenly turned into a devil's. If she was not holding a whip, then she was holding a candle. I, as a weapon spirit, seemed to have some incredible hidden attributes. Ka. The strange attributes in the corner were handcuffed with bracelets and ankles. Arya clapped her hands and smiled innocently. Master, leave this guy to me. I can purify it in about 1 or 2 months. Chapter 877. The uncanny attribute was equivalent to being locked in a dungeon, and Arya was equivalent to the head of the prison. As for running away, it was impossible. She could only accept the result of being purified. Jun Changxiao left with satisfaction. He could not control Palace Master Shi's thoughts to make her go berserk, but it was not a good idea to keep her in a vacuum cleaner. It was good to have a place to discipline her. If I get beaten up by a group in the future, I can directly activate the defensive form and absorb all the external forces for Arya to purify. Then I can take it for myself. Wouldn't my strength increase exponentially? Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. The system said, it's just a metaphor. It can't really absorb the energy of other people's cultivation. That's true. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, I still have to take the right path. I can't take the unorthodox path. The system was speechless. He said it as if using cheats to upgrade was the right path. The sky outside was already bright. Creak. Jun Changxiao opened the door and walked out. He stood in the courtyard and stretched his arms. He took a breath of fresh air and said with a face full of joy, my whole body feels comfortable. How could it not be comfortable? He had obtained contribution points and many equipment resources. His realm had also increased to half-step saint. Speaking of realms, Jun Changxiao seriously felt it and found that a special energy the size of a grain of rice appeared in his dantian. This was the power of space. Jun Changxiao had broken through to Wuxia with the talisman of heaven and earth, and the energy he condensed was much purer than this. Strictly speaking, the so-called half-step Wuxia was still at the emperor level. However, because it had the qualification to spy on the power of space, it was specially separated. The half-step saint level only has a preliminary grasp of the power of space. It can't really achieve instantaneous teleportation, so only by breaking through to Wuxia can it really be used. Jun Changxiao thought to himself. It had only been 4 or 5 years since he came to the Falling Star continent, and he had broken through to half-step saint from level 2 meridian opening. This speed was fast. However, a chef who did not want to be a general was not a good tailor. Therefore, Jun Patriarch's goal was to step into Wuxia and become a martial emperor. Then, he would build the sect into the strongest sect and start his unrestrained new life. Ding! A notification sounded in his ears. After one night, he had refined more than 10 sets of True Yang battle boots, True Yang battle robe, and True Yang mask. The 3 pieces of equipment had an ancient style, especially the battle robe. Although it looked like a steel chest, there was also a red robe and a cape draped over his body, similar to the armor of a general in ancient times. As for the silver-white True Yang mask, it could only cover half of his face, very much like the mask worn by Ku Tianla's Yang Gua. On the whole, the battle boots and the mask were considered small pieces, while the battle robe was the bigger piece, because it was full of red robes, breastplates, shoulder plates, belt, knee guards, and wrist guards. Shua! Jun Changshao put on the True Yang three-piece armor set. His crimson battle robe, which was as red as blood, covered half of his shiny silver armor. With a wave of his cloak, he looked like an iron-blooded general who was about to go to war. It's a pity that I don't have the True Yang spear. Otherwise, I would be even more handsome. When he was refining equipment, he had seen the equipment introduction and learned that the battle boots, battle robe, and mask were a set of 3 pieces. In terms of weapons, there was a high-grade True Yang sword, a high-grade True Yang spear, and a high-grade True Yang bow. If he changed to a spear or a bow, there would be different effects. This kind of 4-piece set made Jun Changshao certain that it was completely prepared for soldiers. After all, spears and bows were more suitable for army battles. Patriarch. At this time, Li Luochio walked into the courtyard. However, when she saw Jun Changshao wearing the True Yang set, she subconsciously froze on the spot. The patriarch, who was always dressed in white, suddenly put on the battle armor and stood proudly in the courtyard. He really had the demeanor of a general who was leading an army. Hall Master Li. Jun Changshao waved his cloak and placed his right foot on the stone bench. His elbows rested on his thighs, and he propped his chin up with his hands. He raised his eyebrows and pretended to be profound as he asked, "Am I handsome?" Puffed. Li Luochio covered her mouth and laughed, saying, "Patriarch, you are so flirtatious." Jun Changshao put down his leg and said, "Why do you want to see me?" Li Luochio stopped laughing and said seriously, "Little Mo sent a message. In a few days, he will take the opportunity to leave Taishan Shengzong and return to the sect to cultivate." Jun Changshao said, "Inform Dudu to prepare food in advance." "That's not necessary," Li Luochio said with a smile. "This girl loves Little Mo the most because he is undercover. She has prepared a set of nourishing food early and is waiting for him to come back." Alas, Jun Changshao sighed and said, "It's really hard on my disciple." Qingyang and the others were all cultivating in the sect, and their realms were increasing day by day. Only Su Xiaoma went out to be an undercover, and his cultivation speed in Taishan Shengzong was not fast. When he comes back, I have to reward him. The so-called reward could only be natural spirit stones. After all, there were many martial arts facilities that he could not continue to enjoy. Inform Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and other core disciples to come here, Jun Changshao said. Yes. When Li Luochio left, she asked, "Patriarch, your armor should not be simple, right? Do you have a female version?" Jun Changshao took out a set and put it on the stone table, saying, "Communicate with it with your mind, and you can change the size and style of men and women. Come, I have a ready-made set here. You can wear it first." The procurement hall and drizzle hall had always been managed by Li Luochio, and she was also vigorously developing the outside intelligence. In terms of merit, she was not inferior to Li Qingyang, so naturally, she would not be stingy. In the courtyard, Li Fei touched the True Yang armor that was given to him, and said weakly, "Patriarch, this armor does not look as good as the spirit armor. Wear the 3 pieces, and take out the Azure Sun sword, and you will know." Jun Changshao said. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others returned to their respective rooms, and then put on the True Yang armor. Their bodies were fit and beautiful, and when they supported the armor, they were truly extraordinary. Second senior brother, Li Fei tidied his belt and walked out, and then hung the True Yang sword, saying, "Although it is quite comfortable, there is no change." I also did not change. Xiao Ziji did not feel any difference, but felt that the cloak behind him was a bit of a hindrance, so he simply rolled it into a ball and casually put it on his shoulder. Not long after, Yi Xingchen also walked out. Although it was Pei Ania's body, it still had the soul of the Night Emperor, and after many years of tempering his body, wearing the True Yang armor was like a god descending to the mortal world. Junior brother Yi, where's your mask? This kind of thing used by women. Holding it will only embarrass men. Li Qingyang said. Patriarch is waiting in the courtyard, let's go over. After a while, everyone lined up neatly in the courtyard. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao nodded in satisfaction. Patriarch. Li Fei scratched his head and said. We've all worn it, but there's no change. Are you sure you're all wearing it? Yes. Where's the mask? Air. Only then did Li Fei remember that there was still a mask, so he took it out from his waist and said, Patriarch, are you going to wear it on your face like this? Jun Changshao said, That's right. Just as Li Fei was about to put it on, a thick and heavy aura suddenly came from the left. Xiao Ziji put on the mask first and slightly released his aura. He felt that his strength had obviously increased, so he said in surprise, Patriarch, I feel stronger. Li Qingyang also put on the mask and said excitedly, After this disciple put on the mask, I feel that my strength has increased by at least 10 to 20%. Pa. Li Fei didn't think any further and directly put the mask on his face. Sure enough, just as second senior brother and junior brother Xiao had said, after releasing his cultivation, he felt that his strength had increased. Moreover, it wasn't only his strength, but his legs that were wearing combat boots were also lighter than before. Not only did it increase my strength, it also increased my speed, Li Fei said in surprise. Long Xiang, Tianqi, Yang Yuhua, and the rest all put on their masks. After confirming that their strength had increased, their faces were filled with excitement. This mask is too magical. Could it be a treasure? Jun Changshao explained. Combat boots, armor, mask, and Azure Sun Sword are called the True Yang Four Sets. As long as they are equipped at the same time, their speed, defense, and strength will increase by quite a bit. Heavens! This is too awesome. Tianqi, Long Xiang, Song Xianzhou, and the rest were all shocked. Wearing 4 pieces of equipment to increase their overall strength completely subverted their understanding of martial arts. The True Yang Four Sets didn't just have an amplification effect. In fact, just by wearing it alone, it could increase one's strength by quite a bit. The combat boots could increase one's speed, the armor could increase one's defense. And as for the mask, it was nothing more than a decoration used to show off. Li Qingyang and the rest wore the True Yang Four Sets, which was equivalent to wearing 4 pieces of top-grade equipment. They were like R&B warriors that had been charged with money. Patriarch, Yi Xingchen said. This disciple will leave for a moment. Jun Changshao nodded. Yi Xingchen left silently and hurried to his residence after leaving the courtyard. He took out the mask that he had casually thrown in the trash can and put it on his face without caring about the dirt. He felt that his strength had increased by different degrees and said in shock, Too magical, too unbelievable. Chapter 878. Jun Changshao gave Su Xiaoma a lot of natural spirit stones to make up for his lost cultivation time. Even Li Qingyang and the others couldn't compare to this. As for the True Yang set, mid-grade body shaping pills and soul shaping pills, he also gave Su Xiaoma 2 surge talismans. Although Su Xiaoma couldn't use the surge talisman for now, once he reached the peak of Martial King, he would have 2 chances to become Wu Huang. It would be more convenient to save his life in times of need. Of course, Jun Patriarch was still considering if he could use old man Jun Tian's identity to put on a show for his disciple. How? When to put on a show. However, the most important thing was that his appearance had to be stylish. He had to create sparks and lightning along the way. Only then could he shock the Taishan Xingzong and make them value Su Xiaoma more. I have to plan this well, Jun Changshao thought to himself. Su Xiaoma asked Elder Wei about his relationship problems and focused on cultivation. Because his cultivation stagnated and he was lagging behind his peers, he couldn't go to the dimensional battlefield. Moreover, he didn't have much time left the Taishan Xingzong. A few days later, after going through the Tower of Trials, the Life and Death Secret Realm, and the Space-Time Secret Realm, he came to the main hall and said, Patriarch, I have to go back. Jun Changshao said, Be careful. Yes. In front of the mountain gate, the disciples sent Su Xiaoma off. Lu Wanshur wiped her tears and waved her hand. Senior brother, if you don't have enough food, you can go back to the sect to make up for it. She made a lot of snacks this time. They could be stored in the interspatial ring for a while. Thank you, junior sister. Su Xiaomo walked to the foot of the mountain and turned to wave at the patriarch and his peers. After leaving southwest Yangzhou, he would put on the magic modification mask and return to his identity as Su Jintang. Although he had been undercover in the Taishan Shengzong for a year, it was just a pretense. Only in the sect of all times could he find the feeling of home. Therefore, in order to go home and complete the patriarch's task, he had to climb up quickly. Patriarch, Lu Wanshur said worriedly, senior apprentice brother Su won't be exposed, right? What if they were discovered? Will he be captured and tortured? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Girl, can't you think of something more auspicious? Of course, this kind of thing also had to be carefully considered. In any unexpected situation, the safety of the disciples must be the priority. After sending off Su Xiaoma, Jun Changxiao clapped his hands and said, It's time to get down to business. What's the matter? Going to the planar battlefield to cause trouble? Ta. Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji Li Fei, Tian Qi, He Wudi Long Ziang, Yang Yuhua, Ling Yuanxue, and Song Xianzhou stopped at the entrance of the planar battlefield. Zhou Hong couldn't go for the time being, because he hadn't reached the pinnacle of the Sword King realm. There was a difference between the Sword Dao and the Martial Dao. It wasn't just about increasing one's grade. Of course, as long as one had a profound understanding of the Sword Dao and became a Sword Emperor, their combat strength would definitely be stronger than their Martial Dao peers. Other than the eldest disciple, Li Qingyang, and the others all wore the true Yang armor. They were like generals going to the front lines to provide support at any time. Jiangya, the Ning brothers, the pavilion elder Ding Xingwang, and Gongsun Haohai stood in front of the 10 disciples. Currently, the 6 of them were the true upper echelons of the sect of all times. As for the elder Wei, although he had recovered his strength, he was still managing the herb farm behind the scenes. The Purple King and the 100 Hills King had also come. These 2 beasts were comparable to saints. They were definitely at the level of golden fighters. As for whether they could beat up that Earth-class expert, that would depend on the 2 of them and Ding Xingwang. Shua. Not long after, Jun Changxiao walked over. Little Long Long and Xiao Maxian followed behind their master. The 2 of them still didn't like each other. They glared at each other all the way until their eyes were sore. They stopped in front of the Outer Realm Battlefield's teleportation gate. Jun Changxiao said with a serious expression, The planar battlefield is extremely dangerous. You must treat it seriously. Don't underestimate the enemy. Yes. Everyone shouted. Okay. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers and said, Let's go. Shua. Li Qingyang was the first to enter the teleportation gate. When he heard the realm does not match, cannot enter notification, he crushed the surge talisman given to him by the patriarch. Detected that the intruder has reached the emperor class and meets the minimum requirements to enter. Activating the teleportation device. 10% increase. 30% increase. 100% increase. Teleportation. Xiao. Li Qingyang disappeared into thin air. As expected, Jun Changxiao said, We can use the surge talisman to sneak in. Xiao Ziji, Li Fei, and the others who had yet to reach the emperor class crushed the surge talisman and were teleported in order. Their blood burned during the process, and they were a bit nervous. Just how terrifying was the planar battlefield that could injure the patriarch so badly? Looking forward to it. Super looking forward to it. The sky was dark, and the ground was blood-red. A dense killing intent rippled in the air. This was the planar battlefield, an Azura field where only killing and being killed could be found. In the stronghold that represented the falling star continent, which was only a few dozen square meters in size, flags fluttered in the wind. It seemed a bit desolate. Damn it! Where did that guy go? Outside the stronghold, 20 to 30 martial artists in uniform floated in the air, their faces filled with anger. They were from the Scarlet Sea continent. The first person that Jun Changxiao killed in the planar battlefield was from this plane. Big brother. A martial artist said in a deep voice. That guy couldn't have been killed by someone else, right? If he was killed, there should be a notification. The middle-aged man in the lead frowned. It's strange. Why would the falling star continent appear in the planar battlefield out of thin air? Why is there only one person? The others were also puzzled. According to the rules of the battlefield, at least 2,000 people had to be sent in. The stronghold given to them was also quite large, unlike the falling star continent, which was only the size of a room. Could it be that he washed off the red light and secretly hid in some corner of the battlefield? Someone guessed. At present, that's the only possibility. They didn't think too much about why the falling star continent stronghold appeared. Instead, they had been looking for Jun Changshao for more than half a year. Getting blood was secondary. The most important thing was to avenge their dead companions. Swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, dozens of streams of light flew over from afar. These people came from the Lingyun continent. Like the Scarlet Sea continent, they were also looking for Jun Changshao. Normally, there was no need to pay attention to anything in the planar battlefield. They could just kill on sight. However, the powerhouses of the two planes were separated by hundreds of feet, yet they didn't reveal any fighting intent. It wasn't that they didn't want to fight. It was that they had gradually formed a tacit understanding after fighting so many times. If they wanted to fight, they had to arrange a time to go to the Azura field. The Azura field. It was a main killing area. According to the rules of the upper realm, the designated planes had to enter the Azura field to kill within a certain time. Of course, this rule was added later. It wasn't in the beginning. The reason was that the upper realm wanted the lower realm to kill each other. The lower realm martial artists weren't stupid. They would often form a tacit understanding. If you don't offend me, I won't offend you. They let you kill each other, but you ended up sitting together drinking tea. This situation was awkward. Therefore, the upper realm set a rule that new planes had to enter the Azura field to kill within a certain time. Chapter 879. To make up for Su Xiaoma's wasted cultivation time, Jun Changshao gave him a lot of natural spirit stones. Even Li Qingyang and the others couldn't compare to this. As for the true Yang set, mid-grade body-shaping pills, and soul-shaping pills, he also gave him 2 surge talismans. Although he couldn't use the surge talisman for now, once he reached the peak of Martial King, he would have 2 chances to become Wu Huang. It would be more convenient to save his life in times of need. Of course, Jun Patriarch was still considering if he had the chance to act as old man Jun Tian for his disciple. How to act. When to act was particular. However, the most important thing was that his appearance had to be stylish. It had to be flashy. Only then would he be able to shock the Taishan Shengzong and make them value Su Xiaoma more. I have to plan this well, Jun Changshao thought to himself. After Su Xiaoma learned about love from Elder Wei, he focused on cultivation. Because his cultivation had stagnated, and he was lagging behind his peers, he couldn't go to the dimensional battlefield. Moreover, he didn't have much time left the Taishan Shengzong. A few days later, after going through the Tower of Trials, Life and Death Secret Realm, and Space-Time Secret Realm, he came to the main hall and said, Patriarch, I have to go back. Jun Changshao said, Be careful. Yes. In front of the mountain gate, the disciples sent Su Xiaoma off. Lu Wancher wiped her tears and waved her hand. Senior brother, if you don't have enough food, you can go back to the sect to make up for it. This time she made a lot of snacks. They could be stored in the interspatial ring for a while. Thank you, junior sister. Su Xiaoma walked to the foot of the mountain and turned to wave at the patriarch and his peers. After leaving southwest Yangzhou, he would put on the magic modification mask and return to his identity as Su Jintang. Although he had been undercover in the Taishan Shengzong for a year, it was just a pretense. Only in the sect of all times could he feel at home. Therefore, in order to go home and complete the patriarch's task, he had to climb up faster. Patriarch. Lu Wancher said worriedly. Senior apprentice brother Su won't be exposed, right? What if they were discovered? Will he be captured and tortured? Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Girl, can't you think of something more auspicious? Of course. This kind of thing also had to be carefully considered. In any unexpected situation, the safety of the disciples must be the priority. After sending off Su Xiaoma, Jun Changshao clapped his hands and said, "It's time to get down to business." "What's the matter? Going to the planar battlefield to cause trouble?" Ta. Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, Li Fei, Tian Qi, He Wudi, Long Ziang, Yang Yuhua, Ling Yuanxue, and Song Xianzhou stopped at the entrance of the planar battlefield. Zhou Hong couldn't go for the time being, because he hadn't reached the pinnacle of the Sword King realm. The Sword Dao was different from the Martial Dao. It wasn't just about increasing one's grade. Of course, as long as one had a profound understanding of the Sword Dao and became a Sword Emperor, their combat strength would definitely be stronger than their Martial Dao peers. Apart from the eldest disciple, Li Qingyang and the others all wore the true Yang armor. They were like generals going to the front lines at any time. Jiangya, the Ning brothers, the pavilion elder, Ding Xingwang, and Gongsun Haohai stood in front of the 10 disciples. Currently, the 6 of them were the true upper echelons of the sect of all times. As for Elder Wei, although he had recovered his strength, he was still managing the herb fields behind the scenes. The Purple King and King of 100 Hills also came. These 2 beasts were comparable to saints. They were definitely at the level of golden fighters. As for whether or not they could beat up that Earth-class expert, that would depend on them and Ding Xingwang. Shua. Not long after, Jun Changshao walked over. Little Long Long and Xiao Maxian followed behind their master. The 2 still didn't like each other. They glared at each other all the way until their eyes were sore. They stopped in front of the Outer Realm Battlefield's teleportation gate. Jun Changshao said with a serious expression, "The planar battlefield is extremely dangerous. You must treat it seriously. Don't underestimate the enemy." "Yes," everyone shouted. "Okay." Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, "Let's go." Shua. Li Qingyang was the first to enter the teleportation gate. When he heard the realm does not match, cannot enter notification, he crushed the surge talisman given to him by the Patriarch. Detected that the intruder has reached the Emperor class and meets the minimum requirements to enter. Activating the teleportation device. 10% increase. 30% increase. 100% increase teleportation. Xiao. Li Qingyang disappeared into thin air. As expected, Jun Changshao said, "You can sneak in with the surge talisman." Xiao Ziji, Li Fei, and the others who had yet to reach the Emperor class crushed the surge talisman and were teleported in order. Their blood burned during the process, and they were a bit nervous. Just how terrifying was the planar battlefield that could injure the Patriarch so badly? Looking forward to it. Super looking forward to it. The sky was dark, and the ground was blood red. A dense killing intent rippled in the air. This was the planar battlefield, an Azura field where only killing and being killed could be found. In the stronghold that represented the falling star continent, which was only a few dozen square meters in size, flags fluttered in the wind. It looked a bit desolate. Damn it! Where did that guy go? Outside the stronghold, 20 to 30 martial artists in uniform floated in the air. They had faint anger on their faces. They were from the Scarlet Sea continent. The first person Jun Changshao killed in the planar battlefield was from this plane. Big brother. A martial artist said in a deep voice. That guy couldn't have been killed by someone else, right? If he was killed, there should be a notification. The middle-aged man in the lead frowned. It's strange. Why would the falling star continent appear in the planar battlefield out of thin air? Why is there only one person? The others were also puzzled. According to the rules of the battlefield, at least 2,000 people had to be sent to enter this place. The stronghold given to them was also quite large, unlike the falling star continent, which was only the size of a room. Could it be that he washed off the red light and secretly hid in some corner of the battlefield? Someone guessed. At present, that's the only possibility. They didn't think too much about why the falling star continent stronghold appeared. Instead, they had been looking for Jun Changshao for more than half a year. Getting blood was secondary. The most important thing was to avenge their dead companions. Swoosh. Swoosh. Suddenly, Dozens of streams of light flew over from afar. These people came from the Lingyun continent. Like the Scarlet Sea continent, they were also looking for Jun Changshao. Normally, there was no need to pay attention to anything in the planar battlefield. They could just kill on sight. However, the powerhouses of the two planes were separated by hundreds of feet, and they didn't show any intention to fight. It wasn't that they didn't want to fight. It was that they had gradually formed a tacit understanding after fighting so many times. If they wanted to fight, they had to arrange a time to go to the Slaughtering Azura field. The Slaughtering Azura field, it was a main killing area. According to the rules of the Upper Realm, the designated planes had to enter the Slaughtering Azura field to fight within a certain period of time. Of course, this rule was added later. It wasn't in the beginning. The reason was that the Upper Realm wanted the Lower Realm to kill each other. The Lower Realm martial artists weren't stupid. They would often form a tacit understanding. If you don't offend me, I won't offend you. They let you kill each other, but you ended up sitting together drinking tea. This situation was awkward. Therefore, the Upper Realm set a rule that new planes had to enter the Slaughtering Azura field within a certain period of time to start killing. Chapter 880. To put it bluntly, at the edge of the planar battlefield, cultivators from different planes could live peacefully. However, once they entered the battlefield, they had to fight to the death. When Jun Changshao came to the planar battlefield for the first time, he was also hunted down by others. They didn't fight. For each other's 10 merit points, there was no need to fight to the death. It was obviously more tempting for a new plane cultivator to get 100 merit points. Planes like the Scarlet Sea continent and the Lingyun continent had been in the planar battlefield for many years. They knew each other well. If they didn't have a reason to fight, they would either argue or fight a few rounds at the edge of the planar battlefield. Although the planar battlefield was used for killing, it was rare to see a fight on sight, apart from the old bullying the newcomers. When a plane's stronghold expanded to a certain extent, not only would the mission be completed, but they could also freely enter and exit the planar battlefield. They could come here to kill for merit points and search for opportunities. The Scarlet Sea continent and the Lingyun continent were in this situation. They had been designated a few hundred years ago to enter the planar battlefield. After expanding their territory, they had successfully completed the mission and obtained the right to enter the planar battlefield at will. This meant that as long as the designated plane completed the mission, they could keep the teleportation device for later generations to come and fight or search for opportunities. Only those planes that entered for the first time and were forced to fight for territory. Of course, there was another situation that could cause a big fight. That was when a cave or opportunity was discovered. For rich resources and merit points, people would go crazy. For example, a few decades ago, two planes that were equal in strength and even greeted each other when they met began to fight in a corner of the planar battlefield because of a divine-grade treasure. That battle was earth-shattering, and blood flowed like a river. After the outcome of the battle was decided, the treasure was also taken away by the other plane. In truth, such fights over supreme treasures and fortuitous encounters were not uncommon in the planar battlefield, which had a long history. It was unrealistic to say that they fought every day. Unless a cultivator wanted to seek excitement or earn merit points, they would go on a killing spree alone, or in a small group. However, they would often be beaten to death, and the grass on their graves would grow a few meters long. A few dozen cultivators from the Lingyun continent stopped in the sky above the stronghold. The white-haired old man in the lead said calmly, "You guys are quite diligent." Likewise. The leading middle-aged man from the Scarlet Sea continent put on a fake smile. The two planes had fought fiercely before, but they were evenly matched in terms of strength. They had fought a few times, and there had been many casualties, but there had been no clear victor. Thus, when they met, there was only the smell of gunpowder, and they did not dare to really fight. During the period when Jun Changshao had disappeared, the martial artists from these two planes had come the most frequently. The main reason was that they were relatively close to each other. They also hoped that they could kill Jun Changshao and obtain the 500 bounty. In my opinion, the white-haired old man said indifferently. That kid has already washed away the red glow. He's hiding in a corner and doesn't dare to come back. Humph. The middle-aged man said coldly. He killed so many martial artists of my Scarlet Sea continent. Even if that kid hides at the ends of the earth, he won't be able to escape death. I'm sorry, the white-haired old man said indifferently. This prey belongs to my Lingyun continent. Yours? The middle-aged man sneered. From the moment they met to the moment they spoke, the murderous aura in the air grew stronger and stronger. But there was no intention of fighting. Let's go. The white-haired old man waved his hand. They mainly came over to take a look. If they didn't find their target, they naturally wouldn't stay for long. We'll go back too, the middle-aged man said. However, just as the two groups of people were about to leave, a person appeared out of thin air in the Falling Star Continent's stronghold. Even the area of the stronghold expanded by half a meter. This place. After stabilizing himself, Li Qingyang looked at the stars in the sky and the crimson ground beneath his feet. He muttered, "This is the planar battlefield?" Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, a powerful murderous aura pressed down from two directions. Only then did Li Qingyang realize that there were dozens of martial artists comparable to Emperor Realm experts floating in the air. Their gazes were unfriendly. Although the patriarch had said that there were many martial artists here, however, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw so many emperor-level experts who could fly. This lineup was on the Falling Star continent. It would probably only appear during some major event. Dozens of pairs of eyes from the Scarlet Sea continent and the Lingyun continent stared at Li Qingyang. Soon, they could tell that this person wasn't the bloodthirsty guy from back then. However, since he appeared in the stronghold, it meant that he was also from the Falling Star continent like that guy. Kid, the middle-aged man coldly shouted. Hurry up and come out. He couldn't be sure if Jun Changshao was alive or not. If he was, he could kill this kid and get blood drop. The white-haired old man thought so too. He hurriedly returned with his companions and hovered outside the stronghold. His eyes were filled with endless killing intent. It's a little scary. Li Qingyang was panicking. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Lu Qianqian, Xiao Ziji, and the others appeared in the stronghold. When they were on the ground, the Falling Star Continent's stronghold would expand. It wasn't difficult to see the pattern. As long as the martial artists representing the Falling Star Continent entered the battlefield, the stronghold would expand by half a meter. This was an initial value that would continuously increase with the number of people. When the limit was reached, even if everyone from the plane was brought in, there would only be a fixed area. If they wanted to expand, they would have to fight non-stop. Seeing a few more martial artists from the Falling Star Continent, the martial artists from the Scarlet Sea Continent, and the Lingyun Continent began to mutter. Logically speaking, the next batch of designated planes would only come in 5 years. Why were there martial artists entering in advance? Or was it intentional by the upper realm? The upper realm. Fuck, I'm the scapegoat for the martial artist's imagination. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One after another, Long Xiang, Song Xianzhou, and the others appeared in the Falling Star Continent's stronghold. When they felt the world with a strong murderous aura, and felt the experts who were comparable to emperors in the air, their eyes were burning. Here, as the patriarch said, it was more terrifying than the life and death secret realm. It was a little exciting. Whoosh, whoosh. Jiangya, the Ning brothers, and the other elders also appeared. When Xiao Longlong and Xiao Maxian came in, the Falling Star Continent's stronghold expanded from the initial 20 square meters to more than 30 square meters. The eyes of the martial artists from the Scarlet Sea Continent and the Lingyun Continent gradually lit up. In their eyes, the 20 or so martial artists from the Falling Star Continent were 20 prey that could be slaughtered at any time. Whoosh! At this moment, a familiar figure appeared in the Falling Star Continent's stronghold. When the martial artists from the Scarlet Sea Continent saw this, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. That's right. The one who caused such a big reaction was naturally the handsome Jun Gosheng. Welcome back to the dimensional battlefield. The female system's voice rang in his ears. Jun Changshao was the one who set up the portal, so only he could hear it. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others did not have this function, so they were in a state of confusion. Jun Changxiao steadied himself and glanced at the two groups of people outside. He smiled and said, "You know that I'm coming back today, so you're here to welcome me? Welcome my ass." The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and said, "You killed so many martial artists from the Scarlet Sea continent. Wash your brains clean and come out to die." Jun Changxiao understood. Although he had left the dimensional battlefield for a while, these people did not give up and should come to visit every day. Die. Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers and sat down elegantly. At this time, Xiao Ziji would definitely pass him a chair, but because he was in an unfamiliar environment and was still adapting, he ignored the patriarch's reminder. Plop! Jun Gosheng fell to the ground. The disciples, the martial artists. In this extremely awkward situation, Jun Changxiao simply lay on his side, his elbow on the ground, his palm on the side of his face, his right leg on his left leg, and his body in An's shape. He then used the one yang finger and the lion roar at the same time. Come in. Chapter 881. P.S. The next 15 chapters will be released consecutively. It is inevitable that there will be mistakes. If there is a mistake in the chapters, please do not panic. I will refresh or delete the chapters and add them back to the bookshelf to read the latest content. Jun Patriarch fell to the ground. The situation was very awkward. However, this guy reacted well. He laid on the ground and posed. Not only did he stabilize the situation, but he also provoked them. This guy was really arrogant. The two existential plane cultivators were instantly enraged. Humph! The middle-aged man sneered. Don't play dead on the ground. Come out. Jun Changxiao stood up and snapped his fingers again. This time, Xiao Ziji came back to his senses and hurriedly placed a chair in front of him. Jun Changxiao sat down steadily and crossed his legs. He picked up a cigar with one hand and condensed a flame with the other. After lighting it, he said, "Don't be impatient. Let me take a breather first." He was not pretending. He was analyzing the strength of the dozens of martial artists. 2 xian. More than 30 huang. Huff! Jun Changxiao blew out a smoke ring and said to himself, "It's not a big problem." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also staring at the group of martial artists in the air. Their eyes were shining with a strong desire to fight. These people were obviously stronger than the spirit beasts in the life and death secret realm. If they could fight with them, it would be very exciting and satisfying. Under Jun Patriarch's guidance, the disciples of the sect of all times could definitely be called warmongers. The two martial artists also looked at the martial artists from the falling star continent. Seeing that most of them were at the lowest huang level, they sneered. Patriarch, Ding Xingwang said, "As long as we kill them, we will get merit points and expand our base." That's right, Jun Changxiao said. Ding Xingwang said eagerly, "When do we do it?" Now. The disciples were holding the surge talisman, so every second was precious. Therefore Jun Changxiao didn't waste any time. His eyes suddenly became cold as he waved his hand and said, "Disciples, listen up. Get rid of these people." Yes. Shua. Shua. Whoosh. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others stepped out of the stronghold one after another. Each of them rubbed their palms together, and the powerful aura emanating from their bodies made them seem like demons who had just broken their seals and walked out of hell. If they were on the Starfall continent, their opponents would definitely panic upon seeing such a scene. But in the planar battlefield, they didn't know each other, and neither of them was willing to submit to the other. Why would they care? They even thought that she was putting on an act. "You really dare to come out?" The middle-aged man sneered. Even though Zhang Xian did not understand why so few people had entered the Falling Star continent, he was certain that the Falling Star continent was designated as an emerging plane. Since they were here, they had to undergo proper military training. Bullying newcomers was the joy of the Crimson Sea continent's martial artists. Over the years, the number of martial artists that fell at their hands was not few. Swish at this moment, the white-haired elder from the Lingyun continent, who had been silent all this time, rushed over first. His vast aura exploded like a raging wave. The fact that the young man was still alive meant that the blood of the falling star continent still existed. If he could kill him first, he could easily obtain 100 merit points. The middle-aged man thought the same. The moment the white-haired elder attacked, he hurriedly pressed down. The two black experts were competing to see who could attack faster and take down the first blood of the falling star continent first. Whoosh! Whoosh! The experts from the Crimson Sea continent and the Lingyun continent attacked from both sides. Their auras were clearly much stronger than that of Mu Changhong, a half-sage. Li Qingyang and the others, who were warming up, did not pay attention to them. Instead, they stared at the 30 yellow-level experts, because these were their opponents. Leave the leftmost one to me. I choose the second one. Leave the ugly one to me. They were communicating with each other through telepathy and determined their targets. Die! Whoosh! Whoosh! The white-haired elder waved his hand, and a majestic palm print condensed. This guy's killing move was a large-scale attack. Obviously, he wanted to take down not only the first blood, but also more merit points. Ta! Just as the palm print was about to press down, Ding Xingwang suddenly appeared in their field of vision. He raised his head slightly, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said a classic line. How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the sun and moon? Whoosh! His right fist suddenly punched toward the sky. Whoosh! 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 The powerful evil aura turned into a huge fist, and with an earth-shattering force, it directly shattered the palm print. The white-haired elder, who attacked, immediately retreated a few feet back. When he stabilized his body, he said in shock, "An earth-level expert?" Buzz! Suddenly, the space behind him rippled. Die! Old Ding walked out from inside, and a palm containing 5 types of evil aura came directly toward him. The white-haired elder just turned around, and with the best angle, he received the palm print with the most complete right side of his face. However, with a bang, his whole body fell to the red ground like a cannonball. The ground trembled, and dust filled the air. The martial artists present all had spiritual thoughts, and they immediately noticed that the white-haired elder had sunk into a deep pit. His face and skin were black, and his breathing had completely stopped. He was dead. The earth-level expert had been killed instantly. The middle-aged man who attacked from the other side was shocked. Just as he was considering whether to continue attacking or retreat, a powerful airwave suddenly erupted from below, and a red flame slashed from below. Not good. Boom! The flame slash exploded in midair, and immediately formed a rain of fire, dyeing the dark gray area red. The one who used the red sky raging flame slash was Gongsun Haohai. He stood in front of the disciples and raised his arm again. 2 light beams quickly condensed, and then with a whoosh, they entered the explosion zone. Boom! Under the 7 mystic light beam, the middle-aged man was blasted out, and then he paused in the air. Not only were his clothes tattered, but there were also 2 dents on his chest. Wah! Blood spurted, and his face was pale. Old Ding was a wusheng, and it was easy for him to kill an earth-level expert. Gongsun Haohai, who had just entered the half-saint realm less than 2 years ago, had heavily injured an earth-level expert from the Scarlet Sea continent with just 2 moves. It was enough to show that after becoming an elder of the sect of all times, his strength had increased significantly. Take his life while he was down. Gongsun Haohai did not give his opponent any chance to breathe, and once again condensed the red sky raging flame slash and attacked. Boom! Faced with such a fast and domineering move, the injured middle-aged man could not dodge. He was once again hit by the blazing flame slash, and fell down like a kite with a broken string. The martial artists from the Scarlet Sea continent and Lingyun continent were all dumbfounded. In their eyes, this new martial artist was only here for military training, but in the end, he had killed and injured their 2 earth-level experts in an extremely short time. Retreat, retreat, retreat! Someone came back to his senses and shouted loudly. Easily killing and injuring 2 earth-level experts, this falling star continent's martial artist was very strong. Retreating was the wisest choice. Retreat? It was too late. Just as the middle-aged man landed, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had already communicated with the power of flight and rushed over. Furthermore, with the enhancement of their steel wings, their speed was extremely fast. Wuxi Qingyang was the first to rush over, the true yang sword in his hand glowing. It suddenly cut through the void, forming an extremely cold sword aura. Li Fei and the others either used the red sky raging flame slash, or the 7 mystic light beam. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, scorching heat and light flashed outside the falling star continent's stronghold like fireworks, gorgeous and colorful. Puchi! Where the sharp sword passed, an arm flew out. After crippling an arm, Li Qingyang charged over again with his sword. Boom! Boom! A Scarlet Sea Continent martial artist condensed a move and blasted it at Xiao Ziji. Not only did the latter block it with his physical body, but he also did not retreat half a step. There was no time to think, and he ran away. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, the surrounding space was filled with dense earth elements. Walls of earth formed, and in the blink of an eye, this martial artist was sealed in. Xiao Ziji rushed in, his eyes burning with passion. Come, let's have a good fight. Boom, boom. The disciples outside the sect shook the heavens and the earth. Jun Changshao sat on a chair, smoking a cigar, and said with a smile, "Experts on the battlefield, I'm back. Are you ready?" Chapter 882. Boom, boom. Within the 4 earthen walls, Xiao Zui was still attacking. It was supposed to be a hearty battle, but in the end, they were beaten up like sandbags. In the end, they were bounced around the walls until they lost all signs of life. Before entering the planar battlefield, Jun Changshao had warned his disciples not to be merciful, and to kill whenever they had the chance. Even the kind-hearted Li Qingyang followed his master's orders. After chopping off the arm of a Lingyun continent warrior, he decisively swung his sword and cut off the opponent's head. In the planar battlefield, being merciful to others was being cruel to oneself. The one with the best performance was Yi Xingchen. In a short period of time, he had already killed 3 people. His attacks were very clean. Retreat, retreat, retreat. A Scarlet Sea Continent martial artist shouted. This was just a beautiful wish, because Jiang Xia, the Ning brothers, and the others had also rushed over. Some warriors might not be weaker than the Sect of All Time's disciples, but against the higher-ups of the Sect of All Times, they had no way to retaliate. Only death awaited them. Some ran quickly, but just as they thought they were out of danger, they saw Elder Ge rushing over. With a wave of his thick hand, he directly smashed the target to the ground. He had the azure sunset and the steel wings. Brother, it was better to give up on healing. Boom, boom. The killing continued. Blood splattered everywhere. In a short period of time, more than 20 warriors who had come to the Falling Star continent to take a look turned into corpses scattered across the crimson ground. Of course, some took the opportunity to run far away. Whoosh whoosh, a Red Sea continent warrior, who had just flown out, turned back in horror. His entire body was instantly swallowed by a ball of flames. Can you run? Little Long Long's childlike head emerged from the flames, like a devil that had walked out of hell. No, that warrior cried out in despair. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the flames exploded, and he was instantly reduced to ashes. Little Long Long's eyes were filled with disdain. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment on the other side, a sky full of feathers exploded, killing the Lingyun continent warriors who had fled far away. Puchi puchi. Xiao Maxian flapped her wings and floated in the air, looking at the little dragon like a proud princess. TSK. Little Long Long snorted. What a troublesome burden. Say that again. You're a hindrance. Oil. Bottle. Nearly 40 warriors from the 2 planes were wiped out in a short period of time. The speed was extremely fast. As for the stronghold on the Falling Star continent, it expanded from 30 meters to 70 meters. Shua. Jun Changshao walked out. He stopped in front of the half-dead middle-aged man and asked indifferently, "Who's playing dead now?" The Crimson Sea Continent's Xian-titled expert was in so much pain that he couldn't speak. His meridians had been severely damaged by the 7 profound sunglow, and he was already heavily injured. Shu's saber light flashed and a head fell to the ground. Congratulations to the participant for killing a Xian-titled martial artist. The reward is 10 merit points. The female system's voice sounded. Only 10 points. Jun Changxiao shook his head. The first time he killed a Xian-titled martial artist, he was given 20 points. Now that he was classified as a Xian-titled martial artist, he was only given 10 points at the same level. That's right, Jun Changxiao said. How much do I get for killing a low-level yellow-titled martial artist? 5 points. The female system said. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. If I'm an earth-titled martial artist, how much do I get for killing a yellow-titled martial artist? 1 point. Sky to kill a yellow-titled martial artist? 0 points. Jun Changxiao put away the green dragon crescent blade and rubbed his chin. It seems that I have to calculate how to maximize the merit points I get. If he killed a low-level martial artist himself, he would get 5 points. If he encountered a yellow-titled martial artist, he would get 10 points. Clean up the battlefield. Yes, the disciples began to move. Before long, everyone took back the spatial rings of dozens of people. After Jun Changxiao checked them one by one, he broke down and said, "Why isn't there anything good?" The system said, "In this kind of battlefield where you can die in the next second, who would be so showy as to bring all kinds of resources and wait for others to pick up their belongings?" Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "I thought too much." As he spoke, he walked back and forth in the stronghold. Small flags were placed all around the stronghold. In this year, his realm had been stuck, but he had not been idle to grow flowers and plants. He had taken a high-grade formation aptitude liquid early, and occasionally went to study formations with Zhen Dejuan. With the help of the imaginative Shengguan Xinyao, the three of them had successfully developed a new type of lightning formation. It was very powerful. After killing so many people from the Crimson Blood continent and the Lingyun continent, the other side would definitely send out more powerful martial artists. Therefore, it would be very satisfying to set up a lightning formation outside the stronghold in advance and blow them into a mess. Although Jun Changxiao came here to fight, he must have thought carefully about how to make himself invincible. Once bitten, twice shy. The dangerous situation where he was chased to the point where he had nowhere to run was not allowed to happen again. That was so satisfying. The martial artists here are more resilient than those from the Falling Star continent. I had to throw a few dozen punches to get rid of that guy. If it was a normal Wu Huang, he would have died long ago. While Jun Changxiao was setting up the formation, the disciples gathered together to discuss the battle just now. Their faces were filled with excitement. Although the battle had not lasted more than 10 minutes, the strength of the enemy made them realize that this plain battlefield was very exciting and very suitable for training. Unfortunately, it could only exist for 2 hours. The Purple King stood to the side with his hands behind his back. A trace of disdain appeared on his face. He and the King of 100 Hills did not attack. First, it was Jun Changxiao's orders. He wanted to give the disciples a chance to fight. Second, the opponent was too weak. To put it bluntly, these two Beast Tribe martial artists were comparable to Saint-level martial artists. They would only show their value after an Earth-level martial artist appeared. Moreover, after learning that high-leveled martial artists killing low-leveled martial artists gave less merit points, Jun Changxiao would let them fight less unless it was necessary. He would let the disciples deal with them to maximize the merit points. Ding Xingwang, the Purple King, the King of 100 Hills. Gongsun Haohai, Little Dragon Xiaomaxian. The 6 of them were the strongest representatives of the sect of all times. In terms of strength, they corresponded to the Earth-level and Hera-level martial artists. Of course, Jun Patriarch, who had broken through to the half-saint level, was also quite strong. However, under these circumstances, he definitely would not try to find someone to fight one-on-one. If he had the chance, he would lead the disciples to fight as a group. First, he would expand the base. Patriarch Li Qingyang stood in the base. He looked around at the empty space and said, "Do we need to build the base?" This guy's occupational disease was acting up again. Jun Changxiao said, "We should." Li Qingyang's eyes lit up. He said, "Disciples should build a large hall first." Although the base had expanded to around 100 meters, after killing a few dozen martial artists. There was definitely not enough space to build a large hall inside. Go ahead. Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, we should at least have a place to stay. The base on the falling star continent was empty. They definitely needed to build a place to shelter themselves from the elements. Yes. With the patriarch's agreement, Li Qingyang first set up a table. He then took out a large stack of sketches and started to choose based on the size of the base. When he had nothing to do, he would study the sketches of buildings. Now they were finally put to good use. Patriarch, what do you think of these sketches? You decide. Yes. After Li Qingyang decided on a sketch, he took out a large number of construction materials from his space ring. He called for Xiao Ziji, Li Fei, and the others to get busy. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. This guy actually had stones, bricks, and other construction materials in his space ring. It looked like he had already thought about it before he entered. Of course, Li Qingyang had already come up with a plan after asking about the details of the planar battlefield. If not for the fact that the area was limited and he could barely build a large hall, he was confident that he could build a large group of buildings in a short time. Chapter 883. After all the building materials were in place, Li Qingyang took the lead and began to build. The first step in building a house was to dig out the foundation. Everyone gathered their strength and began to bombard the ground according to the blueprint. Soon a series of pits were formed. Shua, shua. Long Xiang unsheathed his sword, cutting down wooden pillars until they were round. Hoo hoo hoo. Xiao Ziji sat in the distance. He gathered the dug-up soil into the shape of a brick and then baked it with a high-intensity flame. Jun Changshao, if my disciples don't cultivate martial arts in the future and go out to become carpenters, they definitely won't starve to death. If the martial artists were to see a group of yellow-rank powerhouses building a house, their jaws would drop to the floor in shock. Big brother, this is a cruel planar battlefield, not your backyard. Can you be a bit more serious? Can you be a bit more serious? Shua, shua, shua. After the bricks were refined, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others began to move the bricks and lay the bricks. They worked very carefully. Old Ding Jiangya and the others also came over to help. Xiao Maxian had nothing to do. She grabbed a pile of mud and threw it at the little dragon. Pa! You dare to hit me? The little dragon lifted the mud bag beside it and smashed it at Xiao Maxian's head. Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji's lips twitched. This contract beast of the patriarch didn't know how to give in to a girl at all. Everyone busied themselves. The construction speed was extremely fast. 20 to 30 minutes later, a grand hall was erected in the stronghold, occupying 90% of the space. The grand hall's style was similar to the grand hall of the Sect of all times. Because of time constraints, the construction was relatively simple. It didn't have a grand and majestic aura. Of course, there was still a lot of room for improvement. It would slowly be perfected in the future. Patriarch. Li Qingyang took out a plaque with the word Starfall Continent engraved on it. Should we hang it up? This thing had been prepared in advance. How thoughtful. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and erased the words on the plaque. Then, he condensed his strength and redrew the words. He said with satisfaction, hang it up. Yes. Li Qingyang flew over and hung up the plaque. Jun Changxiao stood outside the main hall. From his point of view, he could see the words "the strongest sect of all time" written on the plaque. The flag that represented the plane was also placed on the roof and waved in the wind. From this moment on, the Starfall continent was officially listed in the planar battlefield and had its first building. Everything is ready. We only need those who are here to die. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the grand hall, one foot on a chair and his arm resting on it. Xiao Longlong and Xiao Maxian stood behind him, their faces covered in mud, like two protectors. Old Ding, Gongsun Haohai, and the other higher-ups of the Sect of all time stood in 2 rows near the stairs. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others below the first prince were facing the outside of the stronghold. Because they were wearing the true Yang suit, they looked like generals guarding the palace. Hoo hoo. Right at this moment, Streaks of light flew over from the east at an extremely fast speed. Goshing smiled. Those who are here to die are here. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, streaks of light streaked across the sky from afar. They quickly gathered in the sky above the stronghold. There were as many as 60 of them, and from their clothes, it was obvious that they were from the Scarlet Sea continent. The leader was a middle-aged man with a resolute expression. He wore a black suit and exuded an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers. His goal this time was to find Elder He, who had led the team out and had yet to return. Elderly, a martial artist pointed below and said in shock, "Elder He is dead." The middle-aged man also saw the corpses of Elder He and the other martial artists. His expression changed slightly, and then he looked at the young man sitting in front of the stronghold's main hall. He said with a cold gaze, "You killed them?" "That's right," Jun Changshao said indifferently. The middle-aged man's gaze became colder and angrier. However, at this moment, he saw the corpses of the Lingyun continent martial artists in the distance, and was shocked. "You killed them too?" "That's right." Jun Changshao was satisfied with the person who was about to die. He answered whatever he asked. Although the middle-aged man's face was filled with anger, his heart had gradually calmed down. There were nearly 40 martial artists from his side, and the Lingyun continent. There were even 2 black powerhouses. All of them had died in front of the stronghold of the Falling Star continent. This meant that the other party was not weak. He might not be able to take advantage of them. "Let's go," he shouted coldly. He made a prompt decision to leave and return to the stronghold to inform the others. It was undoubtedly the right choice to send a stronger team. Unfortunately, when everyone was about to turn around, Xiao Longlong and Xiao Maxian had already circled to the back. The 2 enemies were either shaking their heads or clenching their fists. "Since you're here," Jun Changshao said, "how can you leave so easily?" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others flew out, their eyes flashing with battle intent. Just the thought of being able to fight with an emperor-level expert at any time and any place made them excited. "Kill!" the middle-aged man shouted. Whoosh whoosh. As he spoke, he gathered a vast aura and attacked Xiao Longlong, who was blocking his way. He wanted to rush out with everyone and return to the stronghold of the Red Sea continent. He wanted to inform the others about the situation here. "You're courting death." Xiao Longlong's right fist blasted out. Flames instantly burst out and turned into a flaming fist that collided with the middle-aged man's power. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, rolling up billowing heat waves. The middle-aged man who attacked took a few steps back. After stabilizing his body, he said in disbelief, "This guy looks like he's only at the yellow level. Why is he so strong?" Whoosh whoosh. Xiao Longlong carried a sky full of flames, like a fire god descending to the mortal world. He said coldly, "Because I'm handsome." Boom, boom. Under the sky full of flames, the middle-aged man was beaten back. In the end, he decided to take a detour and quickly moved in another direction. Although Xiao Longlong was only at the emperor level in his second form, his strength was very explosive. Flying feathers in the sky. At this moment, a clear voice came from the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A blade-like beam of light shot out from the sky. The expression of the middle-aged man, who had just avoided the flame attack, suddenly changed. He quickly formed a hand seal and shouted, "Nine Dipper Seal." Wung, wung, wung. 9 enchantments instantly condensed in front of him. Pung pung pung. The flying feathers in the sky smashed into the enchantments, creating billowing smoke. Whoosh! The middle-aged man flew out. Of the 9 enchantments in front of him, 4 were broken. It seemed that the problem wasn't too great. After all, this middle-aged man was a black-level powerhouse. Xiao Maxian's strength was at most at the peak emperor level. If she wanted to injure him, she would have to find a flaw in his defenses. Who? Blazing hot flames howled from behind him once more. Damn! The middle-aged man was enraged. He could only helplessly contend with Xiao Longlong's erupting flames. There was no chance for him to escape. From time to time, Xiao Maxian would take advantage of every opening to launch sneak attacks. Like this, A half-saint powerhouse was successfully stalled by Jun Changxiao's 2 contract beasts. Crimson Heaven's raging flame slash. On the other side, Long Xiang flew forwards. He condensed a flame seal in his palm, and then blasted it through the void. Bang! The 2 yellow-level martial artists joined forces to break apart this attack. They glanced at each other, and then erupted with their cultivations. They weren't as thorough as the middle-aged man. They believed that since there were only a dozen or so people coming out from the stronghold, they should be more than enough to deal with him. Crimson Spirit Light. Sea Crossing Light. Whoosh! 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 Several Red Sea continent martial artists took this chance to use all sorts of martial skills, condensing beams of light that shot towards Long Xiang. In a battlefield without rules, they didn't care about numbers. They could even launch sneak attacks, because only those who survived were the victors. Chapter 884. This is a bit troublesome. Seeing all kinds of gorgeous martial skills flying towards him, Long Xiang frowned slightly. Although relying on the true Yang set, he was not inferior to those experienced yellow rankers, but to receive so many attacks, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. Shua! At this moment, Xiao Ziji rushed over and waved his hands. Buzz buzz buzz! A materialized earth wall instantly appeared around them, enveloping the 2 of them. This defensive wall was gathered by the Earth Spirit and supported by Xiao Ziji's great desolation body. The aura it emitted was as if several ancient mountains had been moved from the ancient wasteland. The Red Sea continent's martial artists sneered. Although the wall looked a bit thick, if we all attacked together, even a top yellow ranker might not be able to withstand it. Boom! 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 All kinds of light beams smashed onto the wall, stirring up a gust of wind. However, under the cold aura, the earth wall erected around Xiao Ziji and Long Xiang did not have any cracks. The Red Sea continent's martial artists who were attacking together were dumbfounded. Although their strength was not the strongest in the yellow level, when 5 or 6 of them attacked together, the power was extremely terrifying. The Falling Star continent's martial artists relied on the earth wall to withstand it without any cracks. This was too shocking. Bang! Bang! The earth wall dissipated one after another. Xiao Zuiji raised his head, grinned, and said, "So exciting! To be able to exchange blows with this level of expert. To be able to use the power of defense to experience an even stronger power." It made his blood burn crazily. "Go!" Li Qingyang shouted. Li Fei, Tianqi, and the others rushed up from the left and right. Their eyes flashed with passion as they locked onto an opponent and began to attack crazily. At that moment, as long as it was a sect of all times martial skill, they would use it. Because there were more martial artists in the Red Sea continent, in order to prevent the disciples from being outnumbered, Jun Changxiao ordered Jiangya and the other higher-ups to fight. To be exact, it was to assist Li Qingyang and the others in fighting. Boom! He was the first to bloom. Relying on his speed and martial skills, he killed a yellow-titled martial artist on the spot. On the other end, Yi Xingchen was still fighting fiercely, because his opponent was stronger than the one he had killed previously. Pucci, after exchanging more than 10 moves, Pei Aniu grasped the opponent's weakness and directly pierced through the opponent's heart. The warrior looked at the masked warrior in front of him, his eyes filled with disbelief. He was clearly stronger than him, so why did he die in his hands? Because of equipment. Because of experience. Pucci. Yi Xingchen drew his sword and charged towards the other Scarlet Sea Continent cultivator, without looking back. Although Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others' cultivation levels were not as high as their opponents, they had the support of the true Yang set, and the experience they had gained in the life and death secret realm. Once they started to fight, they were like ferocious beasts that had been released from their cages. "Patriarch," the Purple King asked, "can I fight?" Seeing Li Qingyang and the others fighting fiercely, he really couldn't keep calm anymore. You can. Before Jun Changxiao could finish speaking, the Purple King flew out and instantly approached an expert from the Scarlet Sea Continent who was waiting for an opportunity to sneak attack Xiao Ziji. He raised his palm and slammed him to the ground. Rumble! The enemy fell to the ground, his chest caved in, and he died. Rumble! Rumble! The Purple King attacked twice in a row. Two stronger yellow-titled martial artists couldn't fight back at all, and were killed on the spot. They couldn't be more dead. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. This guy should be an Earth-grade martial artist. But killing a yellow-titled martial artist only gave him 1 merit point. This was a complete waste of his life. At this moment, several experts from the Scarlet Sea continent gathered all kinds of power and attacked. Rumble! 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 The Purple King stepped out of the void with a vicious look in his eyes. His clothes were about to explode. Don't kill them. Jun Changxiao hurriedly dissuaded him. You're in charge of watching them. Don't let them escape. Let Qingyang and the others deal with these martial artists. Okay. The Purple King could only restrain his killing intent and hover in the air with his arms crossed. Although he didn't explode his clothes, his kingly aura deeply shocked every martial artist from the Scarlet Sea continent. This guy was definitely an Earth-grade martial artist. No wonder Elderly wanted everyone to evacuate quickly. It turned out that the Falling Star continent had such a powerful martial artist overseeing it. After the Purple King displayed his powerful strength, the Scarlet Sea continent's martial artists' fighting intent immediately cooled down. They only had one thought in their minds: escape as soon as possible. Scram! Bang! A yellow-titled martial artist successfully escaped, but he was discovered by the Purple King. A slap landed on his face, and he staggered back to the battlefield. Die! Yi Xingchen quickly approached the martial artist who had yet to stabilize himself. His Qingyang sword flashed, and directly beheaded the martial artist. Seize the opportunity. Our Pei Aniu is faster and more accurate than Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji. Boom! Boom! Outside the stronghold, the battle was still ongoing. With the Purple King guarding outside, the Scarlet Sea continent's martial artists could only grit their teeth and fight. One by one, they died at the hands of the upper echelons and disciples of the Sect of all times. Every time they killed someone, the stronghold would expand. The Falling Star continent's martial artists would never have dreamed that the battlefield, that would only open 5 years later already, had its own territory. Moreover, it was slowly expanding under the efforts of the Sect of all times. After fighting for about 10 minutes, the Scarlet Sea continent's Elderly was battered and exhausted by Xiao Longlong and Xiao Maxian. Finally, he roared with a face full of veins and disappeared. He ran away. He used a secret technique to run away. Damn it! Xiao Longlong clenched his fists in anger. Jun Changxiao said, if he ran away, then he ran away. It's no big deal. No need to be angry. Mystic martial artists had their trump cards and could suddenly disappear. This was something that no one could stop. Moreover, running away wasn't necessarily a bad thing. After all, they needed someone to spread the news and attract more martial artists to the stronghold like moths to a flame. The middle-aged man used a secret technique to escape. The remaining martial artists were in a tragic situation. After struggling to hold on for 10 minutes, they were declared dead. They might not be weaker than Li Qingyang and the others, but they couldn't fight against Jiangya and the other upper echelons of the Sect of all times. Moreover, the Purple King was guarding the periphery. Therefore, it was reasonable for them to end up like this. The battle ended. The disciples began to skillfully loot the crates. After collecting all the spatial rings, they gathered together to discuss the battle just now. That was a good fight. This battlefield is more exciting than the life and death secret realm. The opponent just now wasn't weak. I had to use all my power to barely gain the upper hand. According to normal strength, the disciples of the Sect of all times, who hadn't even reached the Emperor level, would definitely not be able to defeat the yellow martial artists. However, with the boost of the Surge Talisman and the True Yang set, they were able to fight back and forth. Fighting with an Emperor level at the King level would undoubtedly increase their combat experience and understanding of martial arts. This was the true purpose of the Dimensional Battlefield's teleportation gate. It wasn't used to show off, but to allow martial artists to sneak in without the restrictions of the upper realm to experience actual combat and improve their own cultivation base. As long as Li Qingyang and the others could ensure their safety, they would try their best to fight with high-level martial artists. Regardless of whether they won or lost, they would definitely benefit a lot from it. It was a pity. After 2 battles and the construction of the main hall, the Surge Talisman only had a few minutes left. When it was used up, all of them fell to the peak Wuzong level. Dear participant, the martial artists you brought don't meet the dimensional battlefield's rules. They will be forcefully sent out after 60 seconds, the female system reminded. Qingyang, Jun Changxiao said. Return to the sect first. Yes, Li Qingyang didn't waste any time. He led Xiao Ziji and the others through the teleportation gate and returned to the sect of all times. Lu Qianqian and He Wudi didn't leave because both of them had Wu Huang's strength and met the dimensional battlefield's rules. Chapter 885. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others could only return to the sect of all times because the Surge Talisman was up. They could come and go as they pleased. The advantages of the dimensional battlefield teleportation gate were once again displayed. Those powerhouses from other dimensions who were designated to fight within 5 years and expand their territory, to a certain extent, would definitely be envious if they knew about this. Of course, although they had only been on the battlefield for 2 hours, they had experienced 2 fights with Emperor-level powerhouses. The benefits they gained were huge. Li Qingyang and the others returned to their rooms and began to comprehend the process of increasing their realms and fighting with yellow-level powerhouses. This was a rare opportunity to fight against high-level powerhouses. It couldn't be measured by money or resources. Soon, Yi Xingchen, who was sitting cross-legged in his room, thought to himself, I should be able to break through to Wu Huang in a few days. With the Surge Talisman's support, he had benefited a lot from fighting with powerhouses from other dimensions. Thus, the speed of his breakthrough had increased. The dimensional battlefield. After 2 battles and killing hundreds of warriors, the Falling Star continent's surface area had increased significantly. Patriarch Ding Xingwang said, This place isn't that scary. Jun Changxiao was speechless. If he had experienced being chased by thousands of Emperor-level powerhouses, he definitely wouldn't think this way. Let's go. Jun Changxiao stood up and clenched his fists. Let's go out and cause trouble. Apart from He Wudi and Lu Qianqian, the others were relatively strong. This made him unwilling to wait at the stronghold. Instead, he decided to take the initiative to gain merit points. Buzz! Just as Jun Changxiao was about to lead the others out, the space in front of them suddenly shook. A white-haired old man appeared from inside, exuding an extremely strong aura. It was obvious. This was an Earth-level powerhouse comparable to Wu Sheng. Ding Xingwang frowned. From the aura that this person exuded, he realized that this person's strength was definitely not below his. Old man. Jun Changxiao, on the other hand, clenched his fists tightly after seeing the newcomer's appearance. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he said, We meet again. It turned out that the white-haired old man was the Earth-ranked powerhouse who had once suppressed him with a powerful palm print. Recalling the time when he had been forced to flee in a sorry state like a gopher, Sect Master Jun could no longer suppress his anger. His eyes gradually turned red. When enemies regard each other as outsiders, their eyes turn red with jealousy. Shwa! Shwa! Streaks of light flew over from the east. In just a short while, several hundred yellow and mystic experts from the Crimson Sea continent had gathered outside the Falling Star continent's stronghold. That's a little tough, Ding Xingwang murmured. He had seen Wu Huang in the Falling Star continent before. Now there were a few hundred of them, and there was no lack of half-saints amongst them. This allowed him to realize that the Patriarch was right. The dimensional battlefield really was filled with experts. Senior Che, an old man said in a deep voice, Not only did the Falling Star continent kill many of our Scarlet Sea continent's yellow-class cultivators, even Elder He was killed by them. Damn, Jun Changxiao thought to himself. So this guy is from the Scarlet Sea continent. No wonder he suppressed me. This was his first time in the dimensional battlefield, and he had killed the most Scarlet Sea Continent's cultivators. Actually, this Earth-ranked powerhouse had disdained to deal with a low-level cultivator. However, he had killed many of his own people during his escape, and was even wanted. Thus, he decided to suppress him personally. In the end, he still let him escape to the safe zone. Kid, Che Yuanxi said indifferently, I let you escape last time. You won't be so lucky this time. As expected of an Earth-ranked powerhouse, every word of his was filled with pressure. Ta! Jun Changshao strode out of the stronghold with his hands behind his back and said, What you should be thinking about now is whether you can return safely if you appear before me again. Very arrogant. Very coquettish. However, the moment he stepped out, Che Yuanxi's eyes suddenly turned cold. A terrifying pressure gathered in the sky, and turned into a palm print that pressed down with clouds. Jun Changshao was very familiar with this move. Previously, when he was suppressed, he felt a sense of danger. Now that he had broken through to the half-step wusheng, he felt it again. Although he was still a little afraid, at least he was not as scared. The proof of becoming stronger. Patriarch Jiangya, the Ning brothers, and the others' expressions changed greatly. They were also afraid of the Earth-ranked powerhouse's palm print. Thus, they were worried that Jun Changshao would not be able to take it. Take it. Only an idiot would take it if he could dodge it. Whoosh whoosh. The palm print pressed down with clouds, and the surrounding space almost distorted under the pressure. However, when it was a few meters away from Jun Changshao, Ding Xingwang walked out of the stronghold and smiled coldly. With me, evil Saint Wuju here, no one can harm the patriarch. Boss, don't act cool, quickly break this move. Jun Changshao felt that he was under a lot of pressure. If he could not deal with the palm print, he would definitely be depressed. 5 ultimate palms. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 5 kinds of evil aura gathered together, and Ding Xingwang raised his hand to meet it. Soon after, it fiercely collided with the cloud palm print pressing down. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The deafening sound of the collision rippled in this dark area. All kinds of energy were crazy and wanton, and the space faintly became distorted. When everything calmed down, Jun Changshao's face had a light smile. It was so comfortable to have a bodyguard protecting him. Che Yuanxi frowned and said in realization, No wonder you dared to come out. So there is an Earth-ranked powerhouse overseeing it. Nonsense, Jun Changshao said unhappily. If I didn't bring an expert in, would I have just assumed a posture for you to suppress me? Originally, hundreds of Scarlet Sea Continent's martial artists had swarmed up to chop this guy to death. However, when they found out that the gray-haired old man was an Earth-ranked powerhouse, they hurriedly dismissed the idea and stood in the air to attack from a distance. Jiangya and the Ning brothers also walked out. They stood behind the patriarch and retaliated by glaring at him. The Scarlet Sea Continent's side hung in the air, while the Falling Star Continent's side stood outside the stronghold. They were glaring at each other as if saying, What are you looking at? Look at me again. Che Yuanxi said indifferently. Kid, do you think an Earth-ranked powerhouse can be fearless in the planar battlefield? Buzz! The space trembled. Old Ding suddenly attacked from behind. 5 kinds of evil aura exploded, instantly spreading in the area. Shameless! Che Yuanxi shouted coldly, and immediately waved his palm to meet it. Boom! The 2 saint-ranked powerhouses exchanged blows again. Although there was no clear victor, the energy waves produced were even stronger than before. The Scarlet Sea Continent's elder saw that Jun Changshao had lost his protection and immediately ordered, Kill him! Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 70 to 80 yellow-ranked martial artists rushed down, releasing all kinds of moves in the process, instantly forming a beautiful and magnificent scene. Jun Changshao sneered. Master, get out of the way. Little Long Long stood in front of him and said, I will burn them to death. Jun Changshao took a few steps back. Jiangya and the Ning brothers also subconsciously took 2 steps back, leaving the stage for this contracted beast to show off. How dare you hurt my master? Little Long Long clenched its fists, the flames around its body burning crazily. It said coldly, Then all of you can die. Chapter 886. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in an instant, an explosive wave of heat swept over and quickly gathered a few feet in front of them, forming a whirlpool-like wind current. The Scarlet Sea Continent's cultivators felt that something was wrong, and hurriedly braked and retreated. However, it was too late. Raging flame storm, Little Long Long shouted. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the converging heat wave suddenly erupted into a flame vortex, forming an explosive fire pillar that seemed to break through the sky. The dragon flame technique was fully displayed. Dozens of Scarlet Sea Continent's cultivators didn't have time to dodge. They were trapped in the sea of fire and screamed in pain. Although the following cultivators stopped in time and retreated, it was still difficult for them to resist the raging flames. They were all seriously injured and fell to the ground like roasted flies. Damn! Jun Changshao said in surprise, so powerful? Ever since Little Long Long learned the dragon flame technique, he had only used it in the inner courtyard. Moreover, he hadn't released it yet, so no one knew how powerful it was. Now nearly 100 cultivators had rushed over and released it without restraint, causing such a wide range of lethality. It was very powerful and terrifying. When the soaring fire pillar was formed, all kinds of martial skills and energy were instantly incinerated. Dozens of yellow-level cultivators, and even 2 black-level cultivators couldn't escape. They were directly engulfed by the soaring fire and burned to ashes. There was only evidence of their existence. Only their dying screams could be heard. After the dragon flame technique burst out, 23 of the 70 or 80 yellow-class martial artists that attacked them died, while 40 suffered severe burns. As for the rest of them, they managed to escape the flame's domain in time, but they were still shocked, and their foreheads and backs were drenched in sweat. What kind of technique was this? The moment it was released, it could produce such a terrifying killing range and lethality. The 10,000 contribution points were well spent. Jun Gosheng laughed. The dragon flame storm was much stronger than the field artillery. If it bloomed in a group of thousands of cultivators, it would definitely burn a large number of them. So powerful? Little Long Long was also stunned. However, the price of being powerful was that it required energy. If it was used again, it would definitely be exhausted. Boom! Boom! In the sky, Old Ding and Xuanzi were already fighting. Both of them were relatively powerful saint-level experts, and their strength was on par with each other. If they wanted to determine the victor, they would have to fight until the younger generation got married and had children. It was even possible for the younger generation to get married and have grandchildren. Of course, Jun Changshao would definitely not let the two of them continue fighting. He had been looking for an opportunity to smash the Earth-ranked expert with the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda when he wasn't paying attention. Master! At this moment, the little dragon asked in confusion, "Why is my body red?" Red? Jun Changshao hurriedly turned his head to look, only to see a red glow that was different from flames appearing around that guy's body. He broke down and said, "Oh no, you've gone berserk from all the killing." When he first came to this plane, he became famous after killing 19 yellow and 1 black. Little Long Long had killed many yellow-level martial artists and a profound-level martial artist. Now he had become even more red. Martial artists from the Falling Star continent have killed 23 yellow-class martial artists and 2 mystic-class martial artists. They are now in a killing frenzy. A Class 3 bounty is issued, and the reward is 500 merit points. A deep voice came from the sky. As expected, Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. They are wanted. Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, the red glow around the little dragon shot into the sky. All the martial artists within a few hundred miles could clearly see it. Falling Star Continent? Why did they appear again? Are they in a killing frenzy again? This is really a restless plane. Let's go, they are very close to us. Let's go and take a look. If we are lucky, we might be able to snatch a kill and earn 500 merit points. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, all the martial artists within a few hundred miles of the Falling Star Continent's stronghold gave up on what they were doing and rushed over as fast as they could. Among them, dozens of mystic-class martial artists were alarmed. High-level martial artists killing low-level martial artists would give less merit points, so they might not be interested. However, taking down a Class 3 bounty would give 500 merit points. It was definitely worth a try. Zisu by Qiu. Jun Changshao hurriedly said. Quickly help old Ding get rid of that guy. At this moment, he had roughly guessed that the red glow would definitely attract a large number of martial artists. They had to get rid of that old guy in a limited time. Thud. The Purple King was the first to walk out. Immediately after 2 explosions, his clothes and pants were torn apart, revealing his muscular body. Jun Changshao covered his face and said, "How embarrassing!" Swish. The Purple King disappeared and reappeared in the battlefield. He said coldly, "Leave this old guy to." At this moment, Ding Xingwang dodged Qiuanxi's attack. That powerful palm print landed on his chest. Boom. The Purple King fell to the ground like a cannonball. Jun Changshao, Jiang Ye and the others. Damn it! The Purple King stood up from the deep pit. His body was covered in purple light. He was furious. "I will make you wish you were dead." Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, his legs exploded with power. Boom. The ground caved in again, and energy ripples spread out. Swish. The purple craggy monster monarch shot into the air like a spring. His speed was indescribable. Swish. He closed in on Qiuanxi in an instant. He clasped his arms together and smashed forward. The explosion of power shattered the surrounding space. Not good. The Scarlet Sea Continent martial artist's expression changed. He hurriedly used his movement technique and dodged in a strange way. Boom. However, when he steadied himself, the purple craggy demon king appeared behind him out of thin air. The purple craggy demon king slammed his elbows into his back, and he fell to the ground with a thud. So powerful, Ding Xingwang exclaimed. The demon king that required 5 wushungs to seal had recovered to the level that he had been suppressed before. His combat power was definitely unparalleled. Swish. The purple king flew down and hovered a few feet above the deep pit. His purple attributes exploded and formed a huge fist print. Then he started to bombard. He was furious. He wanted to use his absolute power to make this old guy wish he was dead. Boom. Boom boom boom. Terrifying power exploded again and again. The ground shook frequently. Cracks started to appear in the central area and spread out endlessly. Huff huff. The energy ripples spread out wildly. The Scarlet Sea Continent martial artists were shocked. Their eyes were filled with horror. It turned out that this guy with purple hair and red underwear was even more terrifying than the gray-haired old man. Could Senior Qiuanxi withstand such an explosive attack? This was not the time to care about others. Jiang Ye, the Ning brothers, Elder Ge, Xiao Longlong, Xiao Maxian, and the others were rushing over. Jun Changshao not only wanted to get rid of the Earth-level martial artist, but he also wanted to kill all the Scarlet Sea Continent martial artists. Bully me? You have to pay a painful price. Chapter 887. Red Sky Raging Flame / 7 Mysterious Sunglow / Jiang Ye, Old Ge, and the others charged forward, using the Sect of all times' martial arts techniques. Blazing seals and powerful light beams erupted, causing the sky to lose its color and the earth to tremble. Boom. Boom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The targeted Scarlet Sea Continent was mercilessly harvested, blood and limbs splattering everywhere. Little Longlong and Xiao Maxian also joined the battle. The strength of these 2 contracted beasts was between earth and earth. Every time they attacked, they could take someone's life. The Scarlet Sea Continent had suffered a large number of casualties due to the dragon flame storm. Now they had lost the ability to resist just a few people from the Sect of all times. This could be described as a one-sided massacre. Boom. Boom. The killing continued. As more and more cultivators fell, the falling star continent's stronghold expanded step by step. It might take a few years for other strongholds to grow from nothing, but this stronghold was expanding every minute and every second. The speed was astonishing. Boom. Boom boom boom. The Purple King was still condensing purple fist seals and attacking. In a short period of time, he had attacked more than 40 times. Ding Xingwang's mouth twitched. This guy's strength was very domineering. If he was the one being attacked so intensely, he would have been injured long ago. Patriarch. After a few more punches, the Purple King said, "Should I kill him or cripple him?" He had said this to Su Xiaoma in the Cloud Ridge mountain range before, but the other party had broken down and could not continue the act. "Cripple him, and let me do it," Jun Changshao said. The Purple King stopped attacking and cupped his hands. "He's already crippled. So fast." Jun Changshao was stunned. Whoosh whoosh, a cold wind blew, blowing away the dust. The area where the purple craggy monster monarch had attacked had a huge crater that was hundreds of meters wide. The earth powerhouse Che Yuanxi was lying in the deepest part. His clothes were disheveled, and his body was covered in wounds. He was very miserable, and there were pieces of shattered mirror in his hand. This item was called the Ancient Imperial Mirror. It was one of the higher-level defensive treasures in the Scarlet Sea continent. When Che Yuanxi blasted down, he realized that the Purple King was stronger than the old man. So he decisively summoned it and formed a defensive barrier in front of him. If it were Ding Xingwang, even if he crazily bombarded the barrier for several hours, he might not be able to break it. However, in front of the Demon King, who was known for his strength, even if he had another defensive treasure, it would be useless. Not only did Che Yuanxi fail to withstand the explosion, but Gu Yujing was also unable to withstand the force and shattered. The Purple King had regained the strength he had before he was suppressed, and now he was training in the Sect of all times. His current strength was absolutely terrifying. It could be said that if Wu Sheng were to fight him alone, there would be no way to defeat him. "Old man." Jun Changshao flew to the top of the deep pit and said coldly, "Today, I'm going to make you pay with interest for suppressing me back then." Shua. The heavenly origin demon suppressing pagoda appeared in front of him, emitting an ancient aura. "Go, my sweetheart." Swoosh. The heavenly origin demon suppressing pagoda flashed and flew down, continuously expanding in the process. The Purple King and Ding Xingwang were not in the mood to care about the pagoda. Instead, they stood there dumbfounded. The patriarch's words and actions. "Oh my God, this is too shameful, too embarrassing. How could he do such a feminine action? Does he still have any shame?" The Purple King recalled what had just happened, and goosebumps appeared all over his body. At the same time, he pointed at Jun Changshao and shouted, "Pervert!" Jun Changshao turned around and roared, "A naked man who tears his clothes off when he fights. How dare you talk about me like that? Change, pervert. You, change, pervert." Ding Xingwang. In his opinion, the Patriarch and Hall Master Z were both perverts. Boom. At this moment, a heavy sound was heard. The heavenly origin soul-suppressing pagoda was directly pressed into the deep pit. It was surrounded by flowing light and emitted a desolate aura. Ding Xingwang said solemnly, "This pagoda's quality is probably not low." Under normal circumstances, the main character who wielded an awesome treasure would usually suppress his opponent in front of everyone and display his valiant side. However, Jun Changshao first let his subordinates cripple his opponent before using the heavenly origin soul-suppressing pagoda to suppress him. It was very shameless. Huff huff. The desolate aura instantly spread in all directions. The Red Sea continent's martial artists, who were already at a disadvantage, were affected. Their expressions changed again and again. Among them, there were some experts who knew a little about treasures. They could tell from the aura and pressure emitted by the heavenly origin soul-suppressing pagoda that it is definitely a heaven-grade treasure. Heaven-grade was the Red Sea continent's classification of treasures. It was already considered a divine-grade treasure in the Falling Star continent. Pucci. At this moment, a sword ray flew over. That shocked martial artist didn't have time to dodge, and his head was cut off. He kept his sword and said indifferently, daring to be distracted in a life-and-death battle. "You are lucky to be alive until now." However, looking at the heavenly origin soul-suppressing pagoda, he was shocked and thought to himself, a treasure taken out by the Patriarch might not exist in the mortal world. It must be a treasure left behind by Senior Qishuan. Congratulations to the participant for defeating an Earth-grade martial artist. You have received 20 merit points. The female system's voice sounded in his ears. Defeated? Jun Changxiao's face was filled with shock. The female system said, "The target is not dead, but he has been judged to have completely lost his ability to fight. The participant will also receive the same reward, but it can only be given once. Even if you kill him later on, there will be no reward." Moi. I see, Jun Changxiao said in realization. No wonder when I came to the battlefield for the first time, and was tired of running for my life, or breaking out of an encirclement, I would be rewarded with merit points if I casually sent my opponent flying. Wait, that guy was smashed by the heavenly origin soul-suppressing pagoda, and didn't die. He only lost his ability to fight. An Earth-grade martial artist was so powerful? Swoosh. Jun Changxiao raised his hand, and the heavenly origin soul-suppressing pagoda instantly turned into a pocket-sized pagoda and flew to his side. In the deep pit, Che Yuanxi's clothes were torn, and his flesh was badly mangled. He had completely fainted. Go. Jun Changxiao once again assumed the heart form and shouted shamelessly, "Mine!" Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, a strong airwave erupted in the distance. Countless martial artists were flying over at lightning speed. Old man, you're lucky. Jun Changxiao gave up the idea of suppressing the opponent to death. He sent a message to all the members. Return to the stronghold. Boom. Boom. After killing 2 more Red Sea continent martial artists, Jiang Ye and the others returned to the Falling Star Continent's stronghold at the fastest speed, and stood outside the main hall. Little Long Long and Xiao Maxian had also returned. When they retreated to the stronghold, countless martial artists appeared from all directions. The number gradually increased from a few hundred to a few thousand. In terms of strength, they were all high-level yellow and black martial artists. This is a little scary, Ding Xingwang said with widened eyes. At first he thought that the dimensional battlefield was just SOSO. Now that so many emperor and half-saint martial artists had appeared, he was immediately shocked. Chapter 888. One could tell how terrifying the planar battlefield was from the thousands of experts gathered outside the stronghold. After all, it was rare to see such a grand lineup in a single continent. Fortunately, Jun Changxiao and the others had retreated quickly enough. Although so many people had arrived, they could only stand outside and stare, not daring to charge in. Of course, all the cultivators' gazes were locked on little Long Long. After all, this fellow was crimson red and worth 500 merit points. Senior Che. At this moment, the leading old man from the Red Sea continent landed in front of Che Yuanxi, covered in injuries. Then he picked up the unconscious Che Yuanxi and used some kind of escape technique, disappearing into thin air. Wasn't it Su Dingquan and Che Yuanxi from the Red Sea continent who disappeared? How did they get beaten up like this? Could it be the Falling Star continent? Disbelief appeared in the eyes of the cultivators. The top cultivators in the planar battlefield were only second to the heaven-level cultivators. They were existences that could do whatever they wanted, yet they had been beaten into such a sorry state. Everyone. Jun Changxiao sat in front of the main hall and crossed his legs. He said proudly, "This is the result of offending the Falling Star continent." From this, the cultivators were certain that the Falling Star continent had dealt with Che Yuanxi. Thus they all became vigilant. Someone saw the plaque hanging in the main hall and read, "The strongest sect of all ages." That's right, Jun Changxiao said. "My sect." Ha, how arrogant. A low-level existential plane sect dares to name itself the strongest sect of all ages. Who gave you the courage? These cultivators all had their own factions and sections. They would definitely despise someone who dared to name themselves the strongest sect of all ages. In the Falling Star continent, it was fortunate that Yi Tianxing had taken the initiative to remove the word strongest and announced it to the world as the sect of all times. Otherwise, there would have been many dissatisfied major factions coming to find them. In order to develop in a low-profile manner, Jun Changxiao chose to compromise. He did not insist on naming himself the strongest sect of all ages. The planar battlefield was different. Firstly, there were no acquaintances. Secondly, there was the stronghold's protection. Even if it was called the strongest sect of all ages, there was nothing to worry about. Dissatisfied? Come in and fuck me. Jun Changxiao's current mentality was that since he had come to the planar battlefield, he didn't care about anything else. He was going to show off. He was going to show off. Can't beat him? He would leave using the teleportation gate, cultivate for a while, and then come back for revenge. What is it? Jun Changxiao cupped his hands and said calmly, "Does the name of my sect need to be approved by the other planes before it can be used?" Brat. A martial artist sneered. "Since it's the strongest sect of all time, come out like a man. Have you finished analyzing his strength?" Jun Changxiao asked. The system said, "There are more than 160 Xian powerhouses and 2,600 Huang powerhouses." Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together and thought to himself, "Although there are a lot of people, there are no Earth-level masters. I should be able to kill a lot of them in a short period of time and expand the stronghold by quite a bit. But if he were to kill them all, his name would become red." Sigh. He was a little conflicted. "Everyone," Jun Changxiao said calmly, "I'm only here to target the Scarlet Sea continent. You'd better leave quickly or else." His gaze turned cold as he said, "Kill without mercy." "Kill without mercy?" A martial artist said coldly, "Brat, can you do that?" Mocking smiles appeared on the faces of the others. If it was just them, they might feel a little guilty. After all, Che Yuanxi had been beaten unconscious. But with thousands of people here, they naturally had nothing to fear. "Since you don't want to leave, then don't blame me for being merciless." Jun Changxiao waved his hand, and the high-grade True Yang sword appeared in his hand. Then he confidently put on the mask. Whoosh whoosh. With the support of the True Yang 4 sets, his strength increased in all aspects. Crack. The Purple King and the King of 100 Hills, who were standing at the side, began to shake their heads. Their eyes flashed with a ferocious light that only beasts had. The Patriarch had already transmitted his voice. He could unleash his power without restraint and kill as many martial artists as he could. Jiangya and the Ning brothers were also warming up. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Although they had been through many battles before, they all ended quickly. Now that there were thousands of martial artists present, it would definitely be fun to fight. "Everyone," Jun Changxiao said coldly, "I'll say it again. The enemy of the Falling Star continent is the Scarlet Sea continent. Those who are not involved, please leave quickly, or else, you will all be buried here. On the battlefield, it was either you die or I live. Unless it was absolutely necessary." He did not want to offend so many planes. "Brat," a martial artist from a certain plane said coldly, "Don't boast shamelessly in the stronghold. If you have the ability, then hurry up." He pointed at Xiao Longlong and said, "Let him come out." The martial artists who came did not care about Jun Changxiao and the others. They only cared about the red name. After all, killing it would give them 500 merit points. Stubborn. Jun Changxiao held the hilt of his sword. Mechanical wings appeared behind him. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he said, "Then die." As soon as the word die was uttered, he flew out with a whoosh and appeared in front of the powerhouse at lightning speed. A cold and sharp sword light suddenly appeared. Poochie, the sword light dissipated, and a head flew out. Plop! Plop! The corpse and the head fell to the ground. Because the whole process was too fast, the martial artists closest to them were stunned. They did not realize that Jun Changxiao had already made his move. Congratulations to the participant for taking down the first blood of the prominent continent's black class martial artist. 100 merit points are awarded. Schwa. Schwa. Jun Changxiao ignored the system notification. He turned around and used the linear sword technique. The sky was filled with sword shadows, and the air was filled with sharp sword aura. Retreat! 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 Everyone finally came back to their senses and retreated as fast as they could from the area where the sword aura had erupted. However, there were a few yellow-class martial artists who could not dodge in time and were immediately cut into pieces by the dense sword aura. Poochie! Poochie! Blood splattered, and broken limbs flew everywhere. When the sword aura dissipated in the air, several martial artists died miserably. Congratulations to the participant for taking down the XX continent. The female system reported the merit points for Jun Changshao. Meanwhile, some of the martial artists who had escaped in advance roared, "Brother! Die! Die!" The martial artists' companions that Jun Changshao had killed erupted with their cultivation and anger. They condensed all kinds of energy and blasted it over. Boom! At this moment, a purple energy fist appeared outside the stronghold. Like a bowling ball, it blasted the gathered 20 or so martial artists away. Because the power of the explosion was terrifying enough, those people's bodies could not withstand it. In the short period of time, they were sent flying. They exploded into a rain of blood. Hiss! The surrounding martial artists sucked in a breath of cold air, killing so many yellow-class martial artists with a single punch. The strength of the naked body was too terrifying. Whoosh whoosh! At this moment, a violent aura suddenly came from the sky. The sky suddenly darkened. They looked up in shock and saw a huge palm coming down. It's over! Boom boom boom! The palm carried a huge force and directly blasted 20 or so martial artists to death on the ground. The attacker was the King of 100 Hills. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. These two guys killed so openly. He was afraid. While he was thinking, the Purple King and the King of 100 Hills bodies shone with red light. A deep voice came from the sky. 2 martial artists from the Falling Star continent have killed 46 yellow-class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied state. Level 3 arrest warrants are issued. Each of them will be rewarded 500 merit points. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 red lights shot up into the sky. As expected, Jun Changsha broke down. I'm famous again. Chapter 889. After Xiao Longlong, the Purple King and King of 100 Hills, who had killed dozens of people in a single move, were also wanted. They had become the Emperor's favorites. This was one of the rules of the dimensional battlefield. You could kill without restraint, but after killing a certain number of people, you would be punished and be targeted by others. They're red. They're red. Seeing Monster Monarch Z Craggy and King of 100 Hills emit a red light that pierced through heaven and earth, the eyes of all the cultivators lit up. Killing a martial artist of the same level would only give 10 points. Killing a wanted criminal would give 500 points. If they killed 2, the merit points would be enough to buy a large amount of martial arts resources and reach the peak of their lives. Not everyone was as strong as Jun Changshao, who could kill people as easily as chopping vegetables. Sometimes, for 10 merit points, martial artists from other planes would fight until both sides were heavily injured. Then it was possible that they would be ambushed and killed. So the temptation of 500 merit points was too great. Go! A cold elder said in a low voice. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, dozens of martial artists from other dimensions flew over. The others also moved quickly. At this time, no one cared about Jun Changshao anymore. They only had eyes for the 2 favorites hanging outside the stronghold. At the same time, they also ignored the terrifying power that they had just unleashed. In front of 500 merit points, people would go crazy. Further away, people from other dimensions were also rushing over as fast as they could. 3 red lights shot up into the sky at the same time. This was very rare, so it was destined that the Falling Star continent stronghold would soon be filled with people. Kill! Jun Changshao said coldly. Since he was here, and his strength was not bad, then he would fight until the heavens and earth lost their color. Get lost! Purple Craggy Beast King coldly shouted. His purple attribute madly erupted, transforming into 2 large fists that swept away all the attacking cultivators, as if they were cutting grass. Bang 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 bang. In an instant, dozens of yellow-class martial artists were killed. The Falling Star continent stronghold expanded, but its body became darker. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. He was not worried that the Purple King would become redder as he killed, but with his current strength, killing yellow-class martial artists would only give him 1 merit point each. It was a complete waste. Boom! Boom! On the other side, King of 100 Hills was not as strong as the Purple King. But when he unleashed his full power, he could kill people as easily as grass. Moreover, he was hostile to humans because of his race. He had no qualms about killing them. Boom, boom, boom. After a few rounds, the number of martial artists killed by the Purple King of 100 Hills had almost exceeded 100 hills. The terrifying fighting prowess displayed by the two beasts made the yellow-titled martial artists, who had almost lost their minds, gradually calm down. They were so shocked that they retreated one after another, not daring to approach them. Too strong. They would be killed. Right now Jun Changxiao was standing outside the stronghold. Monster King Purple Craggy and King 100 Hills stood on either side of him like guardians. Thousands of fearful martial artists from other planes surrounded them from all directions. The scene seemed to be frozen in time. Everyone. Jun Changxiao grinned and said, "Come on, let's have fun." Everyone's mouth twitched. They really wanted to tear this guy's mouth open. But with the Purple King of 100 Hills and King of 100 Hills around, they could only attack from afar. Sigh. Jun Changxiao shrugged. A bunch of cowards. With 3 Earth-class martial artists around, he had the right to show off to his heart's content. Buzz! Buzz! Suddenly the space in the distance trembled. 2 white-haired elders slowly appeared. They wore long robes and had a vast aura around them. One had a kind face and a smile, while the other had a fierce glare. "This is," one of the martial artists exclaimed, "the kind man and the fierce glare of the 9 Heavens continent." Hearing the words 9 Heavens continent, all the martial artists' expressions changed. Fear rose in their eyes. There were many planes in the battlefield. Naturally, there were strong and weak planes. The 9 Heavens continent. It was one of the strongest planes in the battlefield. It was said that this was one of the first continents to enter the battlefield. It suppressed the other worlds in the War of Planes and became the king of the plane. In the early days, the battlefield of planes was mainly about fighting for supremacy. Later, as more planes joined, the rules changed with the times. Now the title of king of the plane was long gone. It became a chaotic battlefield. Although the title was a thing of the past, as one of the oldest planes in the battlefield of planes, the 9 Heavens continent's strength was unquestionable. Thus, the martial artists of other planes did not dare to provoke them. Of course, this powerful plane had met the requirements long ago. The entrance to the battlefield of planes remained in the continent for a long time. It became a place for people to train. To put it bluntly, many new planes were still working hard to expand their bases. They were still fighting for merit points. The 9 Heavens continent was already outside. They only treated this place as a training ground. 9 Heavens continent? Jun Changxiao had never heard of it. However, from the aura of the 2 elders, they should be stronger than Che Yuanxi, who was knocked unconscious. Dear participant, there are more than 300 planes in the battlefield of planes. The 9 Heavens continent belongs to the first tier. They are very strong. The female system explained. Jun Changxiao said, "That's a bit impressive. There are a total of 9 tiers in the battlefield of planes." The female system sweetly said, "The falling star continent you are from belongs to the 9th tier, the weakest and the weakest." Jun Changxiao almost vomited blood. I knew it would be like this. I didn't even dare to ask. She took the initiative to say it. Was she purposely trying to attack me? Dear participant, don't be too discouraged. Who hasn't grown up from a child? As long as you get beaten up a few more times, you will slowly become stronger. Moi. The female system said. Jun Changxiao wanted to cry. The appearance of the 2 Earth-ranked warriors of the 9 Heavens continent made the atmosphere even more solemn. These 2 are famous. The benevolent man squinted his eyes and smiled. They are our prey. You don't have any objections, right? His tone was gentle and amiable. However, there was an unquestionable aura in his words. The expressions of the thousands of martial artists changed. They hurriedly said in unison, "No objections. No objections." To show that they really didn't have any objections, they all retreated, leaving the space for the 2 Earth-ranked warriors of the 9 Heavens continent. Heh, Jun Changxiao said, so domineering. The angry evil man glared at the Purple King and said coldly, "You dare to act like this in broad daylight. Do you have any shame? What does my pleasure have to do with you?" The Purple King crossed his arms. His face was full of arrogance. The angry evil man looked very fierce. He definitely had a bad temper. His eyes instantly erupted with anger. "The two of you," June Patriarch said, "does the Nine Heavens continent also want to participate and become enemies with the Falling Star continent?" "Young friend," the benevolent man smiled, "we are only here to catch wanted criminals. We don't want to incur the wrath of any plane." Although the Nine Heavens continent was strong, because they had completed their missions early, they would not take the initiative to start a war. They were considered a neutral party in the plane battlefield. Occasionally, they would act as the world police to catch wanted criminals and earn a lot of merit points. "The person you want to catch is my Sect's hall master, so," Jun Changshao said seriously, "that is an enemy." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.